Are you tired of the same old pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 4,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from over 110 of the biggest names in the industry from over 15 countries around the globe. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
This is Jordan Grace, and you're listening to the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
BWB, this is One Nation Radio. You better get it right. Rich Latta, James Boyd came to give them life. The Blackest Wrestling Podcast has come to kick all ass and drop it 6 feet if they're kicking trash. Word, let me welcome y'all to something different. And if you dig it, man, you should let some friends listen. We be getting it in, this on the regular, dude. Ravish and flow, but this shit rude. See, James don't rap, so I had to break it down. The whole network, man, we coming for the crown. Raps in the columns, I keep them both covered. Making the beats too, so the listeners can bump it. Hit us with the rating, yeah, I'm saying it's a 5. Before you hit it, talk, bob your head side to side. It's One Nation Radio, and this is the beginning. It's Rich, and I'm here with James. It's time to listen to One Nation.
You got to unleash the power of the pyramid.
This is Mike Sempervive from WrestlingObserver.com. Check me out on Wrestling Observer Live every day. And also check out your boys, Rich and James, on One Nation Radio.
This is Kenny Omega. We're listening to One Nation Radio. Check it out, guys. These guys know what's up. Big Kenny Omega fans, and that's all that counts to me. Goodbye and good night. Bang.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's edition of One Nation Radio. I'm your host, James Boyd, and with me I have Rich Latta. What's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. Just cooling here on a Sunday afternoon. Been watching a bunch of Narcos. A little late on it, but that boy Escobar was a bad boy in his day.
Yeah, that's an understatement. Yeah, special episode this week. We have with us the Doc, Chad Matthews. What's going on, Chad?
Man, not much, guys. It has been a while since I've been a part of a podcast. I gave myself a 6-month referendum, if you will, at the beginning of the year. I'm not allowed to go back on any podcasts until 6 months has passed since my retirement. So I would not be apt to pull another Terry Funk and come back yet again. So it is a pleasure to be back here. It has been 6 months. The month of July opened up my ability to get back in the game. So it's great to talk to you guys. It's been a while. See if I'm rusty.
Chad's gonna message us after the show and be like, "I think that was it, man. I think that was it." And then we're gonna be like, "Come on, Chad. You know you got one more in you.
You still got it. It's in the crowd."
The last ride, the Doc Chad Matthews.
Yeah. Why not? Like, talking about like a abusive relationship. Or not abusive, that's too strong. Toxic is the relationship word.
I don't know if you guys have heard the newest news. Apparently there was a hidden episode that is set to premiere or whatever on the network. Yes, apparently it's coming out, the series of the last ride, and I assume this is going to be the one where Vince talks him into coming back.
You know what this speaks to? Just a blatant disorganization around this whole entire outfit in that promotion at all times. It's creative, and like normally that doesn't get into the production side of things when it comes to release dates for things, but lo and behold, here we are.
Yeah, amazing.
Aren't you glad that we don't talk about the main roster WWE like that often? As far as we've kind of stayed away from disorganized, booking. But anyway. Yeah.
So before we get into anything, though, we will be talking about Dominion at a later date.
Right. Thank you.
I've seen the main event. James has not. Chad has not. But we will be back, and I will be on Keepin It Strong Style this week. So do not miss my appearance there and that conversation.
Yeah. If it goes a certain way, I think I might have to just hop into for at least the main event. We'll see. We'll see though. I'm just gonna make it let it know, and then listen to the podcast. I guess James will be joining us probably. We'll see. But yeah, last week we talked about the first week of Great American Bash versus Fyter Fest, and now we're at week 2. Chad, I haven't heard from you on, the world hasn't heard from you on what you think of so far this whole midsummer Clash of the Champion versus Clash of the Champion type thing. So what have been your thoughts last week and also coming into this week?
Well, I will say I'm not a regular NXT viewer. I've not been able to kind of get myself out of the mode of being a takeover only type NXT viewer as I was for so long. But Great American Bash, certainly the headline, the title of the show, going into that WWE vault, so to speak, from all the trademarks they inherited through the WCW purchase. Great American Bash caught my attention. Keith Lee versus Adam Cole caught my attention. And to be honest, if there's any sort of special edition of a wrestling show right now with the absence of most of the other things I would be watching these days, I'm all about it. So I thought night 1 of Great American Bash was really enjoyable. I listened to your show last week. I was more with Rich on the overall presentation of the Great American Bash. The Io Shirai Sasha Banks main event I thought was a really good TV match. I'd love to see more juice behind that in the future. I thought Fyter Fest was really enjoyable. I'm a lot more invested in AEW, admittedly, so Fyter Fest Night 1 was something I'd looked forward to for quite a while. I thought that the things I wanted to be absolutely amazing, Fyter Fest Night 1 really didn't give me that, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought, quite frankly, even though NXT won the ratings battle that night, I thought the AEW was the superior show. So going into night 2 for both, I certainly thought that NXT had a great chance to take it to another level if they could complement what I thought was going to be a great main event. But AEW, I thought going into it, the card even without Brian Cage versus Jon Moxley just looked really intriguing to me. And I thought, honestly, I thought kind of AEW yet again, despite losing the ratings battle, won the quality war. So,
yeah, I mostly agree with that. I think that, in a weird way, that just the overall quality of, like, there is no bottom, there is no Dexter Lumis versus Roddy Strong on AEW. There's nothing that's just like, 16 minutes of just like, I don't want to watch this. But yeah, I think that especially going into week 2 with AEW, like, I feel like night 2 kicked night 1's ass, to be quite honest with you. Rich?
Yeah, Fyter Fest night 2, that was on par, in my estimation, with some of the best like Wednesday shows that they've done, like up there with like the Atlanta episode or the Kansas City episode. Those ones are famous for the cage match and Lucha Bros and Kenny and Hangman, and also the Iron Man match in the Kansas City one. And this one was just like from top to bottom, it was like, super main event. Awesome tag defenses. You had, I think, Archer and Joe Janela carving out nice pieces of real estate. You have one of the best cable TV matches you'll ever see in the 8-man. Like a borderline classic, I would say. And the
wait, you have to be 5 stars to get a classic.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Okay, I'll go with this. I misspoke. I gave it 5 stars, and I'm saying it with my chest. And it flat out had one of the greatest spots I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen a Canadian Destroyer to the outside of the ring, over the top rope, onto a crowd of people. I was just, just mind blown. But yeah, I didn't catch NXT though.
Shocker. Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I thought that night 2
Night 2 felt like my fault. Night 2 felt like what I was excited about going into the shows. Because I was high and jazzed up on the Fyter Fest card on paper. I was like, man, this shit is going to be great. Like, in a way that I didn't necessarily feel going into Double or Nothing. It just happened to work out. But, night 2 was awesome.
Yeah, night 2 is clearly between both shows. NXT or otherwise is the best night of the 4 shows. I feel like last week was close, and then this week, if not for Keith Lee and Adam Cole, I don't think it is. I think that AEW decisively won this week. And I think it is not because NXT didn't try. Like, I think that was a good show, but it was not a very good show, and it damn sure wasn't a great show. But it was just between just the level of depth of AEW was just like I don't know. Like it was I feel like Kenny and Hangman they saw last week and it was like, damn, that was a build tag match. We kind of got to make up for that, and they did. And then some. Yeah. And then the match you said, you're debating about whether it's classic. Like, I know for me personally, like if it's 4.5 stars, it's a classic for me. Like, just is there. Like, but that match is way over 4.5. Like, or that match is like somewhere between that 4.5, 4 3/4 range, in my opinion. Like 5, I never thought for a second it was 5, but like it is. You feel like I feel like some people think it's 5, but that's how it goes. But I don't know. Where do you want to start with this, Rich? You want to go down, match through match, or
just take it match by match and then see what we got going here. So like we opened up with the AEW World Tag Team Championships, and would you believe it, James? Kenny Omega once again the subject on Twitter of what he was doing or not doing as a wrestler at this point. I'm baffled by the conversation at this point, especially with I'll probably bring this.
Wait. Can you go further in on that on what you were seeing? Because I don't know. I didn't hear any of this.
Okay, Raj Giri from Wrestling Inc. I guess he's just bringing up that he's not the same as he's being underutilized or whatever.
Sort of.
Is he the world champion? No.
Right.
However, he has more wins than anybody in the promotion. He's headlined 3 of the 5 pay-per-views, if I'm not mistaken. And he's just been consistently the best TV wrestler in the world this year. So, like, I don't know. But nevertheless, we got that tag team match this week with Kenny and Hangman against Private Party. Loved this match. I thought it was Private Party's best performance since they wrestled like the Lucha Bros and Young Bucks that time. This one felt like they had a lot more like awareness of like what they were going on or what was going on in the ring, because sometimes when you see them, it's like I see all the ideas there, I see everything, the wheels turning in their head, I know what they can be, but it just doesn't get there. It got there on this night.
Right. Like, I think the thing with Private Party is they very much have the notes down, and it's all about adding the other stuff, the music, between the notes, right? Like, they can do virtually any flippy move they want or whatever else, but it comes down to how do they piece it together and how do they, emote when they can. Because it's like Isaiah Cassidy, there's a reason why he sets up the hot tag, because he's the one that's actually the guy that can emote and has the charisma, whereas, outright traditional charisma, where Mark Quinn is kind of like, he has a cool to him, right? Aura, if you will, and that's why it works for his hot tags. And I mean, that also fits in probably with the shades. He's probably for all we know behind those shades probably terrified, eyes as big as saucers. But you never know, because that's how they set it up, and that's like how their identity works. We're like, as a team, right? But they definitely have to get better at the part where it's like, all right, how do we get from point A to point B to do some of our stuff? How do we tell stories, if you will, without trying to sound like, make you want to roll your eyes? So them being there with Kenny and Hangman were like, they beat them decisively. It was no supercharged 3 or 10 minutes of kickouts. It was just like, this team is clearly not there yet. They put up a good fight, but we put them away. It reminded me a lot of like when Adam Cole beat Jordan Miles after Jordan Miles won that breakout tournament back in the summer last year. Chad, what were your thoughts on it?
I thought it was a great match. I thought it was. I didn't think it was, the greatest match ever or anything,
Right.
but I thought it was a notch up from the tag title match a week ago. Thought it was in that definitive 4-star range. I thought that there's a really an advantage in AEW to being in the opening match, to being the guys that get to set the tone. I thought last week in the tag title match with Best Friends, it was like, okay, these guys are expected to carry a main event spot. They got like 19 total minutes from entrances on. I feel like there's an advantage to just being able to be the guys who just go out there at the very beginning of the show and just let loose. I think it's interesting what you said about Private Party growing into the role of being better storytellers. I think some of that will come with time,
Right.
Just kind of getting more comfortable. We don't know them that well. I mean, they're still relative rookies in the big scheme of things in terms of people we've seen a lot. You get them in a title match where it's just solely about winning. I think that works to their advantage, as opposed to the match like last week with Santana and Ortiz. I mean, some of the beats were there, as you mentioned, in terms of what they can do. I thought the fact that we were looking at an AEW title match this week just naturally boosted it up a little bit, took care of some of the storytelling issues that might have been there in a different type of situation. I thought they really rose to the occasion, though, overall. I thought it was a much more fitting example of what Hangman and Omega can do. And as far as what that guy said on Twitter, I think that stands to reason that there's a lot of benefit of not being on Twitter, which I have not been. I deleted my Twitter account at the beginning of the year. Like, you got to come up with some bullshit to say. So, and that's like, okay, what can I say that will be a hot take that will get some retweets and some likes and some conversation? Apparently it's to say some stuff that doesn't make any sense about Kenny Omega, because that's, that would be a very old school thought process to downgrade what Kenny Omega has been doing just because he's in a tag team division. He's spearheading the best tag team division in the world. He owns one of the greatest matches I've ever seen in 2020, and he just continually, I think Kenny Omega has done nothing but continue to enhance his reputation by way of proving his value in a different part of the card. So, one man's negative is another man's positive, I suppose. But yeah, great opening match, great tone setter, and that's the advantage of AEW. AEW just gets it. They understand the concept of putting your best foot forward all the time. And who better to put your best foot forward these days than Hangman and Omega in a tag title match? I love those guys. As much as I'm intrigued to see what they do next. They could stay a tag team for the rest of the year and longer. And as long as they continue to produce matches like that, I'll be happy.
Yeah, like, I get a bit of what Buddy is trying to say, but ultimately, like, it doesn't really matter. Like, yes, does he feel as big of a star when he was a top guy in New Japan? No. Is this guy probably the best wrestler in 2020? Yes. So, and also, like, we were dealing with a pandemic where people have to wrestle, like, either low capacity or no capacity. So what? Nobody does Okada feel as big as he did last year? No.
Look,
there's nobody that feels that way.
I was gonna say, we're gonna get into it, right? If Kenny Omega was at such this mythical level that these people claim he was, and I agree he was, right?
Right.
But he's not anymore. So what about everybody else that was at that mythical level with him? Are they the same?
No, because everybody's fighting in a pandemic, which is
everybody's fighting age. Everybody's fighting attrition. Everybody's fighting these wars that they've gone through. Like, and I'm gonna just say this: the era of New Japan that we all fell in love with is over. It's over. It's finished. It was a once in a lifetime thing. Going from WrestleMania or Wrestle Kingdom 9 to, you could say like the G1 last year. It's over. Just as generations change, times change, it's over. Like when the Attitude Era ended, it's over.
So I'm not there with you on that yet, because it's like, let's see what happens. Like, can we see what happens when we can, like, get everybody in the pandemic is being like, can we at least like wait a year after we get vaccinations for this shit to see if that's actually the case? Because, like, it's easy to say that, like, New Japan isn't or not New Japan, but like most of the wrestling this year isn't on par because it's like, well, it can't be. Like there's no atmosphere matters, production matters. We may have the same production. Some of these cases we don't, but we damn sure don't have the same atmosphere to enhance some of these matches to, you know, the same thing. Like, I love the fact that like NXT half the time in AEW almost all the time is trying to put their best foot forward and put on the best matches and performances they possibly can. But we're still inside of, you know, like every Wednesday AEW does a live Dynamite, or sometimes they tape it, but whatever. Like, and now at this point, in like over 85-degree weather all the time, is like, what do you think would happen if they were in AC and there was a crowd of like 5,000 people, 4,000 people? Like, that's just the game we're in. Like, I watched Dominion, or some of the Dominion matches this earlier today. Shingo and Sho in like the tag match, the tag title match, they were still great, but it's like, we know what it's like if Osaka-jo Hall is filled as opposed to a third capacity. That's just reality. Like, think about the main roster. Like, they are wrestling in front of in a fucking LA Fitness. That's just what it is. As opposed to the atmosphere of the high production and seeing the crowd in a brightly lit ring. Like, all of this stuff is hurt by this. All of it. It's just, it is what it is. So it's like, I'm not ready to quote unquote judge somebody, like the luster being gone off somebody or anybody in general in this era, unless it's like they're also, you know, below standards compared to what, you know, whatever situation they're in, that their peers are also struggling with. Like Naito, or not Naito, let's use another example. Who's having a bad year compared to their normal standard, Rich? Chad, anyone? Throw out any name.
For everybody?
Let's just say anyone. Like, who's having a down year to their normal standard and is also like...
For any promotion?
Tommaso Ciampa.
Yeah, let's use Ciampa, right? Like, you look at Ciampa before the pandemic, you look at after, and like, now he's off TV. He's getting squashed. Like, I don't know what the story is behind that, but like, you go to Portland, he has that great match with Cole. They shoot the angle to get to the heel versus heel Gargano final thing, and then like, now he's got his squash. Like, yes, the bloom is off the rose on that with that dude, and it's like, that is even below what it would be if compared to, like, let's say someone like Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano still comes out and puts on fucking clinics whenever he's asked to do so. So it's like, what's the pandemic and what is falling off?
I'm kind of in the business of like trying to call out things before they happen.
Right.
Like, and then not sneak up on us. Oh,
what makes you say that New Japan is that era is over? Like, what in what way?
The Jay White and Kenta and all the cheating bullshit as opposed to going out there and trying to have the best matches you possibly can. I'm assuming that's what it is. Sorry for talking for you, Rich.
That's part of it, but then you start looking at like the rest of the roster, right? There's an aging roster right now. They have odd elevation choices. Coronavirus is doing a number on their international appeal. They've gone to Okada so often and he's been so great. It doesn't like... He's had to change his look this year, but you can't go back to him again right now just because you've gone to him so much. Now, Ibushi, he's not flying as much anymore. Tanahashi's always great, but he's Tanahashi. He's older. He's a challenger, not a champion. Naito, shell of himself. Ishii, he's great, but he's 45.
And like, if you haven't gone with him before, you're never going to go with him now. And like, it looks like Shingo is basically like... Shingo is basically going to be like the younger version of what Ishii is, as opposed to you see like they slotted him for that, as opposed to seeing where they can go with it.
And all the outsiders, Shingo and Ospreay, at the end of the day, they're outsiders. Like, and I'm looking at everybody's. It's an aging roster with not a lot of fresh matchups on the horizon. That's why I say like this thing's like we're somewhere else. Like we were somewhere else the second Jay White held up the IWGP title. And this is only, like, going forward now, this is only concrete proof of it.
Thought that I had last night watching the Great American Bash.
Mm-hmm.
which 2 nights of Great American Bash, no tag teams, or no tag team champions, no real mention of tag team wrestling. It got me thinking about where NXT is at compared to where it was at its peak, and would it make sense, kind of steering us back to AEW, would it kind of make sense to look at AEW as a factor that has contributed to the end of the era that we saw for New Japan? Because, I mean, not only do they lose their number one American, or, North American guy, but, they've also got a lot of the guys that might have ended up there to give them the boost. Same thing I was thinking about with NXT last night. It's like all the tag teams that would have sort of replenished, because they had that rotating 2 or 3 tag teams at all times in NXT for a long time that kept that tag team division at its peak. And all of a sudden, it's like you just see it. It's just not there anymore. I mean, we're at a TakeOver didn't even have a tag title defense in June. I don't know if that was because of the coronavirus or not, but I mean, it just seems like AEW has sort of risen to the forefront and taken a lot of the guys that would have gone into the NXT or New Japan pipelines that could have replenished the talent loss. And so, I mean, is that a factor in all this? AEW essentially in creating another competitive, I mean, they've basically gone from, not even in the conversation at the beginning of 2019 to what I would feel to be the worldwide number 2 in the blink of an eye. So you basically have this company that, maybe Brian Cage goes to NXT instead of going to AEW, or maybe, somebody like, obviously like a Lance Archer, maybe he would have, kept in New Japan, rising the ranks. I mean, he's an older guy too, but just, spitballing there. So, I mean, because otherwise it never really hit me that New Japan had sort of completely gone away from the era, because I guess maybe because Wrestle Kingdom this year was such a historic type thing, and I loved it so much. I got so much out of the experience of watching it. I hadn't really considered that New Japan had sort of ended its era. But I definitely feel like NXT has ended it.
Oh, well, NXT, I think the thing you're alluding to, Chad, but it was like you were creeping up to it. There's not a next class like coming, like of the super indie superstars that were just rolling in. It seemed like from 2017 to 18, like that's out of here.
Well, yeah, that's what the LA Dojo was for, or that's what it's going to be eventually. Like when you have Clark Connors and whoever else, the other, what's the other dude named?
No, I meant for NXT.
Oh, for NXT.
Yeah. They're trying. There are new people around right now, but the next people.
Yeah. Like there's also that. I mean, it's a lot. Like with AEW thing has changed this perspective from I guess like it has hurt. Yes, it has hurt both NXT and also New Japan. But I think New Japan is better planned for these outcomes, right? Like. They immediately go with Jay White. We know that the lone play is really Will Ospreay. You can elevate Saber anytime you really want to, but Saber's is there right now. And then, you also have the Shibata's boys, as I like to call them. So they'll be fine, and you have someone like Master Wato coming in, and Master Wato, that's a terrible gimmick or whatever else, but the boy can wrestle. So they have that. On the NXT side, I think a lot of it's definitely hurting them more than New Japan. And then also like with the restrictions, like you mentioned that there was no tag match in your house, and like, well, they immediately broke up this the status quo they had with Riddle as a tag team to move Riddle onto the main roster, and that was the catalyst of that was Pete Dunne getting into the country. So I think let's see. I don't know what it's going to be like a year from now, but the lifeblood of NXT was you're here to do a year and a half, 2 years, and then, and you have your main event matches, whatever else, and then you go to the main roster of Vincent Pritchard and Heyman or Bischoff or whoever else is running it can go out there and mishandle you on TV. Now
can WWE you?
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Now, you have acts that are just absolutely like in a purgatory / stale state. Like Ciampa, Gargano, Undisputed Era. Like, the next person, you know, we do have Keith Lee as champion. Like, him, it should be him and Matt Riddle's time in theory, but Matt Riddle got moved up too early. Garza was another person that should have been a part of this this coming class. They immediately yanked him out of here. Their tag division went to hell last year once they you know, Royal Raiders win the titles and then
don't do a job on the way out.
Right. Well, they got pulled. Well, think about it. They won the titles. They defend them one time. They come up to Raw, and then they come up to Raw and get pulled off. Like, that clearly wasn't the original plan. Like, something got accelerated with that. And to further to exacerbate that problem, Street Profits win the damn titles immediately, and then they immediately move them to the main roster.
So there's something that's going on with some of these main roster call-ups, because check this out. Vanessa Bourne has been called up to the main roster, James.
What? She has been on TV.
But you have no idea. Correct, because there's been like turnover backstage. But James, she was called up in January.
What?
Yes. So, story I just read. So she had a contract coming up and bumped to the main roster, similar to the Riddick Moss situation. We don't want you going nowhere, so it's going to be time to pull you up, even if, you know, you're not being used, anything like that. And, you know, with the Heyman Pritchard turnover, coronavirus, she literally hasn't been on TV since fucking June or January. So
has it been January? It feels like
January.
It feels like I haven't seen her since she helped Aaliyah with the broken nose thing with Xylene. That was like November.
Right. So she got the call up in January. Let's just say that. Okay. And we still haven't seen her. Gotcha. So if that happened with Vanessa Bourne, that just makes my mind start, you know, I'm trying to always just think a step ahead of something. They see these people that are either going to have contracts coming up soon, they are going to have to pay them at some point, and then that's what's fucking NXT up. Like, they're gonna, and I like Riddle, that's for sure. That has to be it. Right. Because there were rumors about him, or rumblings that he was like, come on, man, like, you know, I'm older than you think, I'm older than I look, looks don't last forever, I don't want to be, you know, in the Kota Ibushi situation where, like, you know, or Ricochet situation where it's like, I got all this mileage on my body from UFC and from wrestling, and I look great right now, but, like, I want to get to this and do it now before all of a sudden the time I get up there, you know, I'm not utilizing the way that I think my confidence thinks I am, my self-worth is, or / like, if you're gonna make a mistake, make a mistake now, so, like, I can get this done with and move on to something else if it doesn't work, as opposed to, just sit there forever. Like, so I can see that, and you see, you know, they have him up there now, like, they got him off of TV quick, and it's like, well, think about it, like, he signed in the middle of 2018. Yep. That deal was back when they were giving out mostly 3-year deals. Just do the math. When would he be eligible to go up? Or when would he be eligible to, you know, be out of his contract? And a year from now, all right, get him on the main roster now, re-sign him. They've been handing out people 5-year deals. I see that. I can see that. And it's like, how you know how bad you have to feel to give Matt Riddle a 5-year deal, and then all this shit comes up. It's like, woo, you might instant. He shouldn't be on your TV. Another one that he's probably like, what is going on? Is like, Velveteen Dream. Velveteen. Woo, yeah. Tough situation. Tough situation. They haven't spoke about it, so I can't speak about it. But that's what I think some of this stuff is, Chad.
That's true. That's true. And like, gotcha. Yes, having another power like you know, the number 2, you know, critical wrestling promotion in the world out of nowhere, like, yeah, that does hurt people. Like, you know, they really thought they were gonna do something with Trent and Best Friends or whatever else. And then, like, he goes to AEW, because why wouldn't he go to AEW? And it's like, all right, well, that's a hole for New Japan's tag division that, you know, sometimes they care about, sometimes they don't. So, like, all these things add up all across. It's a ripple effect of all, you know, AEW coming around. That definitely is like, it's a zero-sum game. Like, the talent is Pokemon. Got to catch them all, right, between all this stuff. And it's like, AEW won their fair share of battles for the quote-unquote next generation of stuff. And it's like, who knows what's going to be, you know, this next crop of talent after the pandemic, because it's like, it's going to be a while before we find some new budding talent or whatever else. Like, who's out there that's not signed somewhere right now?
And it's always fun to see how everybody retools, you know.
Yeah.
It's easy to kind of look at it from the downside perspective, but it's always fun. Like I remember the takeover I went to, the only takeover I've been to, the one in Brooklyn 2017 SummerSlam weekend.
Brooklyn 3.
And that was the year, Brooklyn 3. That was the year that NXT was really going through a bit of a transition state from its original sort of peak in 2016 into what it would become in 2018. And in the moment in 2017 at that show, I mean, if you would have asked me to predict that Johnny Gargano would go on to become like the best NXT star ever by way of all the things he's done, the takeover matches, the classics, he's like Mr. NXT. I don't know that I would have been able to predict that even 6 months prior to the start of the run that shaped that. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how everybody responds. And I will say about NXT, I mean, I haven't enjoyed it as much these last couple of weeks as I enjoyed AEW. But part of that is inherent to the fact that my investment in AEW is so much stronger. Mm-hmm. I didn't dislike what I saw with NXT by any means. I think, you know, for instance, one of the talents I'm really intrigued by from NXT that we didn't even see in a match from the Great American Bash is what do they call him? Karrion Kross.
Okay.
It's really intriguing. I have no idea where that's going. I think that, you know, you look at what Keith Lee being champion means. I think that's awesome. I think that you saw kind of this trend of introducing some of these bigger guys into the headlining fold, perhaps, or guys that could be moved up to that level because, I've not really been all that enthused by what I've seen with Keith Lee from working with smaller guys. I've loved watching him work big guys, but, you know, against Gargano, against Cole, those matches were good. They were really good. In the Gargano match's case, I'd say it was great, but I wasn't blown away by either of them. I want to see this guy doing crazy stuff with guys that are closer to his size. And so elevating guys like that just to match who's the guy on top right now will be interesting for NXT, I think.
Yeah, man. So let's keep going through this card here. So we have Lance Archer.
Got a little off track.
20-minute digression.
Yep. So Lance Archer and Joey Janela loved it. This was, you know, this was a small man that didn't know how small he was fighting a big man that knows exactly how big he is. And I'd love to see him run it again with a lights out stipulation. And you could have Joey win that, seeing how Joey doesn't actually ever win.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
I like the match a lot.
Yeah. I think when I went into it, I was sitting there thinking to myself, and this was sort of a running theme on Night 2 for Fyter Fest, is Night 2 for Fyter Fest featured all the big-time heels that lost at Double or Nothing that hadn't really had a chance to make any kind of a statement as to what their next step was going to be. And certainly Lance Archer was one of those guys. And so going into the match, I was thinking, all right, he needs a strong win. But at the same time, I really have appreciated what they've been doing with Joey Janela, so I don't want to see him get squashed. So I thought they did a really nice job of balancing what Joey Janela needed to get out of it versus what Lance Archer needed to get out of it. And I thought they both ended up getting out of it what they needed. Lance Archer looked like a badass. It served the purpose of heating him back up a little bit. But at the same time, Joey Janela got the chance to showcase how tough he is. And, you know, Joey Janela is in an interesting spot right now, and so is Lance Archer. So it's kind of interesting to me to think about what might the next step be for these guys. But in the moment, this was a match that set them up both well for whatever that next step could be.
No doubt.
Yeah, I want to see them wrestle again. I don't know in what way, but like I really enjoy Lance Archer beating the crap out of smaller people. I really do. So yeah. It's fun. It's so fun to watch him just beat the hell out of smaller dudes. It really is.
So Darby played a video. He said he's been out for a month, but he hasn't forgot about Brian Cage. And then he did a coffin drop off of a tall platform into a foam pit. So Darby, don't give a damn, Allen continues.
I don't know if you know who Travis Pastrana is, but Travis Pastrana is basically like the Tony Hawk of motocross.
Okay.
So like that was the dude he was out there with. Like,
oh, okay.
He also too is a thrill seeker. Like he does more than just the motocross. He also does like what is it, the dirt truck racing or whatever else. Like he also is an adrenaline junkie, and they both are going to probably get themselves killed at some point. But yeah.
So that Darby segment seemed to play right into the next one, where Taz and Brian Cage come to the ring with a black bag. And then Taz comes out. He says, what was in this bag was something that he created years ago with his blood, his sweat, and the tears. And he pulls out the Fuck the World Championship. He says no promotion has ever recognized this title, but fans around the world know that whoever holds this title is the baddest son of a bitch on the planet. And Cage is no longer uncrowned because Moxley's running from him. And he's the new FTW champion. I feel like down the road, we're getting Darby Allin versus Brian Cage for the FTW division championship.
Yeah, he's definitely in the FTW division. Like him, Janela, Kenny's crazy ass. Kenny would be in the RVD range and be like, he could do anything, but why is he doing this? He's like, yeah, I love this so much, and we always.
After this segment, I was like, I tweeted in all caps, best non-wrestler, send it to Dave now.
Yeah. And I've been talking about this for like maybe 2-3 weeks now. Like, I love every bit about every single part of any interaction or any moment with Moxley, Cage, and Taz. And this is another example. Like, they're knocking out the park. And me and Rich talk about this a lot on this show. Is like, do you want people to get over, or are you just saying you want people to get over? And a lot of that comes down to like, are you pushing new stars? Are you trying to optimize everybody to their fullest potential and with presentation and storytelling to build to these moments, or are you just talking about it? And like he went in the bag and literally handed it down. He literally handed down everything he had. Taz, I was like, I love this. This is just like, if, I don't know, I'm trying to think of other examples of this sort of thing, but it's like, it's passing the torch more or less. It's proverbially passing the torch. Like when we talked about, back in the 1990 WrestleMania 6, when like Hogan literally hands the belt to Ultimate Warrior, is like, yes, put him over. He is the ace now, or whatever else. Like, that's what we're talking about. These sorts of things that like are defining moments of like, okay, this person reached this milestone, like achievement unlocked. I loved it.
No, Brian Cage is your guy, famously, Chad, and a favorite of mine as well. What have you made of? Yeah, what have you made of his introduction into the promotion and this segment here and the FTW belt just coming out of nowhere?
Generally speaking, I think they've handled Brian Cage perfectly. I think that what Taz has done the last 2 weeks for the Brian Cage versus Jon Moxley match, took a match that I would already say was probably number 2 or 3 on my most anticipated matches of 2020 list. The first one, by the way, number 1 on that list was the tag title match from Revolution. Number 2 on that list was Okada and Omega. Or not Okada and Omega, Okada and Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom. So Brian Cage versus Jon Moxley's number 3, I would say, for me. And I think I can't wait to watch that match. I mean, it's one of those matches that I can't wait to see how it looks. I can't wait to see how it plays out. It's one of those things that the Taz being paired with Brian Cage is not something I expected to love as much as I do. And the FTW title thing, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I wouldn't say I loved it as much as you guys did, but I did. I liked it enough to it added that much more fuel to the fire for Cage versus Moxley, which, I'm very, very excited about that. I can't wait to see it. I'd be curious to get you guys' thoughts on how you think that's actually going to play out, and what you think Brian Cage's immediate ceiling is in 2020. Because I feel like with the way they've handled this guy, I've gotten out of the mode necessarily of, outside of my brief interactions with Rich on Facebook chats this year, I don't really talk a whole lot about what's going on in my head with pro wrestling, what might happen, and so on and so forth, like I did when I was in podcasting mode for 6 years. So, I mean, it's kind of a weird sort of dynamic. I mean, I look at it from afar and I think, this guy's very, I mean, they've pushed this guy into a mode where if he's one of the top 5 guys for the rest of the year for AEW, I wouldn't be surprised. I also wouldn't be surprised if he lost and ended up being more like in a Lance Archer type position the following week after Fight for the Fallen. So tons of enthusiasm going into next week. Taz fuels the fire this week. I'll leave it at that.
I think you could fully put it on. Like with Taz, like that act being that strong, and you're kind of in the position right now to where you can shake things up. You can always do a rematch. You can, if there's a situation that arises where it's like, hey, have your best match possible, and then like I know you can't necessarily line these things up, but like switch the title, like go out there and show us why you're the champion or should be the champion, like because like I mean Moxley can be the champion, like nothing changes, nothing, like that's kind of the expected path, right? But I think if you want to shake some stuff up, I think if you want to put them over as a serious, real deal act, and also kind of use it to. I remember a couple weeks ago when Abaddon had the big debut, or Anna Jay had the big debut, and you were like, "Oh yeah, this is just going to be the big babyface thing," and whatever. And then Abaddon comes out and destroys her, and it's like, "Oh shit!" They dumped it on everyone's head. Brian Cage winning would be dumping everything on its head, and we know he can wrestle, and he has the talker to do whatever. I'm talking myself into it, kind of.
Okay, so the second for me when I heard that this match is being delayed and they moved it to, a third week and made it, the Fight for the Fallen main event, I thought to myself, Tony Khan's nicer to me, because as good as I think this feud has been, I would have delayed this shit all the way to all out. Or all in, whatever the hell it's called, one of the alls. So that's how much I love this program. I think it's too soon to move on from Moxley, because Moxley has been so good with it. And I don't think, and honestly, like, I think it's one of those situations where if we have Cage win it immediately, then you're at a point where you're like, okay, so I'm not comfortable having him come in that soon and just winning it without, like, I think that's something he needs to, come back around to. Or he could lose or whatever else and then, like, take the belt off Cody.
There's that option.
I think, like, he's been great. I think that he's been impressive, and just look at him. But I don't think he is at that particular level to just come in and just take the belt off of Moxley, because Moxley was in a great run. Like, if I was going to pick a wrestler of the year based off quality of segment per segment television, whether it's matches or promos, like, Moxley would be super high in the world for me. So I don't know about just putting that on pause for Brian Cage necessarily in that way. But like, I do love, and I think, Taz and Moxley, basically arguing over who's the toughest, meanest prick is like, I love this. This is why I love this feud, is like what Moxley brings to it with Taz, and Taz like taking what, in a way, what Jake the Snake Roberts is doing with Archer, and is doing more to like make it more about Cage than it is about like what happened with Jake Snake Roberts. Roberts is doing a lot of it, especially early on, was like he's more getting himself over the end over Archer. Like, Taz ain't doing none of that. Taz is handing over his fucking ECW belt to this man. So if the match is good enough, I can be persuaded, but like, that's not something I would necessarily do.
Gotcha.
The only way I would see it, from the moment Brian Cage showed up and won that ladder match, my thought was, once the match was announced for Fyter Fest, it was, what if they took in this age where it's kind of hard to put together a heated program because you don't have the crowd there to really kind of give you the juice.
Mm-hmm.
What if to heat up that program to make it more of a factor for All Out? They did a title change and then they just title changed it back at All Out.
Okay.
I mean, I don't like a lot of title changes, but I think honestly with Moxley, Rich and I have kind of talked about it in Facebook chats. And I've not really gotten the impression that there's any immediate thought process that the successor to Jon Moxley is on the horizon is anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
So if you did that, then you would make Brian Cage for the foreseeable future. You'd basically give him enough emphasis to do whatever you wanted with him for the next year, and it'd be a big deal. While at the same time, kind of giving the All Out main event world title match something more than it maybe would have had otherwise. I mean, a lot of that obviously boils down to what are they going to do for the All Out world title match. But I think it's an intriguing possibility. Quick question for you guys, and I don't want to belabor the point, but not having been as dialed in to the internet as I used to be, and just having a couple of conversations with more casual wrestling fans, is the general consensus that Jon Moxley is where he's supposed to be?
What do you mean by where he's supposed to be?
Like in the role that he's in, he's supposed to be the guy kind of carrying the company in the babyface role.
I feel like he's done a great job with it. I never thought necessarily he needed to be the quote unquote ace of a promotion. I just wanted him to do interesting things. He hit the ground running the second guy to WWE. He immediately started doing all of that, and he's been doing nothing but that ever since. But so for me, like, I never really envisioned it to even think about that. But like, I think he's done a very good job with what he's been tasked with so far.
Yeah, I think he's on his own little island. I wouldn't consider the company like being built around him right now, but as James said, like, everything he's done has been like awesome. So it's almost like, well, he's the champion, like he has a belt, but there is another champion here that they're trying to, give defenses every week and make you think about. And I think what happens with a lot of that is, he had the coronavirus in his house too. So it was tough for him to get to a lot of these shows. So, and, so like, it's kind of weird because I think, the pandemic has kind of hit his title reign a little bit harder than, anyone else I can think of. Cause like, he has to go 30 minutes with Jake Hager.
Oh yeah.
Like, come on, man.
Or not sucked, but was like very substandard.
He's completely absent from the Atlanta shows in QT's gym, so he's not there. He's in and out of some of these shows lately. So I think it may just be a fact he hasn't been around, but when he has been around, he's been awesome.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm generally of the opinion that he's right where he needs to be. This is always the place I sort of envisioned him being at. I was happy with the title change when it took place. I'm glad he's the champion. I don't see any immediate reason to take the title off of him, but the two conversations I've had about Jon Moxley outside of this one were not exactly glowingly positive in regards to Jon Moxley as the top guy. So, not dialed in as much to what everyone else's opinion is.
I did finish it all.
Oh, God.
Well, that was one of them. Yeah, that definitely was one of them.
I think the thing for me is like, all right, if you would ask me best TV programs of the year, like main roster, NXT, AEW, if you're like, I feel like Moxley versus Inner Circle / Jericho and what we're doing right now with him and Cage are like, those are two of the top 10 at the very least. So it's like,
absolutely.
What more do you want from him? Do you want him to walk on water? Like, he's doing excellent TV work. He comes out here and like, yes, I don't think he's hit a Randy Orton telling Beth Phoenix that like I love Edge more than you as a heel, and then like calling her a bitch so that she kicks him in the gut and he can retaliate. I don't think he's kind of promo like that, or like the Ellis Island Cody promo, but he keeps hitting these stand-up doubles every time he gets on the mic, and it's like, I love this. They hand him the mic often. He goes out there. He's wildly successful every single time. I feel like he keeps seeing these doubles. Eventually, he's going to hit one 500 feet. So it's like, I love what he's doing right now. But
it's not like he's striking out, grounding out, anything.
Yeah, like everything's been on point pretty much. Like I think what's the last like Moxley match you didn't? Oh, well, aside from the Hager match, is there any other match in recent memory that you don't like from either one of y'all didn't really like from Moxley, or anything like a promo or direction choice that you didn't really like from him? Like, granted, like I wasn't a fan of his of the torture porn Saw movie that he decided to do with Omega, but it's like that's because in my mind I wanted like what I got in that tag match that they showcased this with. Like I wanted that. I didn't want that. That was more of an artistic choice than me disliking it.
Yeah. I would say the one match I'm not super high on, just since you asked the question. I mean, there's nothing that he's done that I didn't like that I completely disliked. Mm-hmm. The one I really wasn't. It's actually, what I've interestingly enough found with my ratings for matches this year is pretty much everything that I have put a rating on, Dave Meltzer has given the exact same rating. The Moxley and Jericho match to me was a little underwhelming. Like I loved the way it ended, and I was glad that they had the title change, but I felt like for the main event of an AEW pay-per-view, I wanted more. But I mean, outside of that, I mean, I thought he bounced back really nicely with the Double or Nothing match that came out of nowhere with Brody Lee. I thought I loved that match with Kenny Omega last year. I think the body of work speaks for itself. Not everything's going to hit. I've never thought he had particularly good chemistry with Jericho going back to the WWE days. So I felt like what they did in AEW was kind of similar to what they did in WWE. It just was okay. It was very, not to say it was just okay. It was very good. It just
curious. What did you
more of a 3 3/4 star match?
That's exactly what I gave it. I'm looking through my match ratings, and that's what I gave it too. So I was like, okay, yeah. So we're all on the same page. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, next,
maybe we agree too much.
I finish it all. So Butcher and the Blade and Pentagon and Ray Phoenix against the Young Bucks and FTR. This was incredible. This was Rich Latta's Pro Wrestling. This was just this was like tag team Nirvana. One can say
one of the best TV matches you'll ever see.
Yeah. Bucks and FTR, a well-oiled unit for most of the match. Butcher and the Blade just playing their roles like to a fucking T. Love those guys. And then the reintroduction of the Lucha Brothers, like with them getting the win at the end, but just so many great spots all over this match. I talked about it earlier, but that Super Canadian Destroyer over the top rope, never seen anything like that. Phoenix is a madman. Nick Jackson is like, he doesn't care. When those two in there with each other is just magic. And it seems like we're getting, a little bit further kind of notes. Like, I've heard people describe this as like, as far as the Bucks and FTR is like, of course they couldn't win together. Like, they're too diametrically like, there's too many differences, but they work together really well in the match, obviously. And next week we got FTR and the Lucha Brothers.
Yeah, like the idea. I think the idea is to work for, or from my perspective, when we, I'm sure Sam will talk about this. Is I think what they're going to go with is that like they arrive at a lot of the same conclusions, the Young Bucks and also FTR. Through different ways, like they both do stuff, pile drivers or whatever else, but like one team is literally Tully and Arm, and this other team is white guys doing lucha. So it's like that is the rub there, and that's what it'll lead to. Is like, I don't necessarily think they're gonna go like full Tanahashi and Omega, but like they could. Yeah. It's there. Yeah. They've laid down enough breadcrumbs to get to that come to that way of storytelling if they want to.
Yeah,
I need to see FTR turn heel to maximize what that can be. Like I loved the match. I need to see FTR go full on into the mode that they were in as the Revival, and
Right.
be, because I mean, part of the fun with those guys was always how are they going to figure out a way to cheat
Yes.
the babyface tag team.
Yes.
And I guess they can do that in their current role of playing the tweeners. And frankly, I'm good with it because I have full faith in Tony Khan and the EVPs to put together a really well hyped program between FTR and the Young Bucks. This added way more to whatever that eventually becomes than I thought it would be. Like, I thought it was going to go the traditional route of hyping up a lot of tension between the two, and the fact that they even did go down the road of having a miscue lead to one super kicking the other, and they're all just cool with it afterwards. I like the slow burn I'm getting the impression of here. I like the idea of them really holding off on this for a while, because I think so highly of Omega and Page as the tag team champions that I would be fully invested in FTR versus the Young Bucks not actually happening until late in the year. And All Out coming up, not 7-8 weeks from now. I mean, that being a tag title match with FTR going up against Omega and Page. And so, but in the interim, one of my favorite things that happened in the match was the Lucha Bros getting the win, because I thought, those guys really needed something to get them back in the fold and make a statement. I'll be really intrigued to see how the match next week plays out, if there's going to be any sort of interference-laden stuff toward the finish that might actually lead to the Lucha Bros winning again. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, you wouldn't think FTR is going to lose anytime soon, but right. I like the way that AEW tells stories. So I'm kind of I'm on board with whatever they're doing, and this was just one of those scenarios that enhanced my enthusiasm for AEW in general.
Okay, so I was bad with their names when they were Dash and Dawson in the Revival. I don't know what their names are now, right? But the one
Scott Dawson is Dax Harwood.
Who's the one with hair? Who's the one that's bald?
Dash is Cash.
Who? Okay,
Cash Wheeler is the one with hair.
Thank
Cash
you.
Wheeler is
Thank
the one
you,
with
Chair.
hair. Yeah,
okay,
my fault.
Yeah.
So the one with hair, when he started the match and tried to get in a strike/chop battle with Pentagon, I was like,
the Pentagon.
Yes, the Pentagon. Are you out of your mind? Right? And for that to kick that off, and then to go from where they went, and then you mentioned because everyone talks about the Canadian Destroyer, you forgot the in my opinion was also not as crazy, but also a crazy spot where Nick Jackson and Phoenix are in a Greco-Roman knuckle lock by the corner. They both jump to the middle rope, then jump to the top rope, and then Nick hits a avalanche hurricanrana, and I was like, "Yo, this is peak. You need to take this shit to your Arena Mexico, my guy." This is ridiculous. So,
that was awesome.
It was
I love
awesome.
this.
Awesome, obvious cooperation.
It's brilliant.
Give me all the contrived gymnastic choreography, please. At that point, when they did that, I was like,
I need it. I need it.
Rich Lana Pro Wrestling at its finest.
So when people talk about storytelling for matches, I'm always like, look, man, you can do whatever you want as long as you set the rules of what the match is going to be. Lucha works for me when they immediately come out at the beginning and they start doing crazy shit, because I know now that's what we're going with, right? That's anything's possible. Once they broke that out, it's okay for them to break out their Canadians, the alley-oop Canadian Destroyer on the top of a crowd of people. Anything's possible now. If they started flying, it'd be okay. But yeah, getting back to the match next week, that exchange helps tell the story of that, and you can just almost see it gets really heated. Lucha Bros start cheating because obviously they're still probably doing the Death Triangle thing, doing obvious cheating. The Young Bucks feel try as a make good, try to save the day, and them trying to save the day only leads to whatever happens with them and FTR might cost them the match from them trying to help out. You can see that. You can see that's a way they could go with it. It's I'm now interested in this feud because before we got to this match, I was just like, I'm not ready to write it off, but this is very, very vanilla and very dry, and now we actually have something to work with now, so I'm happy.
So after that, Alex Marvez was outside, and Big Swole rolled up, and she was served with suspension papers, and the announcers explained that Britt Baker petitioned to have Swole suspended for kidnapping and harassment. And then Big Swole left. Big Swole was upset that no one contacted her. She drove 3 hours. Someone could have faxed her. Someone could have, called something. And then she left the building, per se. After that, we got a...
so hasn't somebody also been kidnapped / suspended this year or last year in AEW and there was no suspension? Am I mistaken on that?
Pac kidnapped Michael Nakazawa.
That's right.
I asked Tony Khan on Twitter in hopes that he would respond because he is quite responsive. He did not respond. So, justice for Big Swole.
Yeah.
So, after that, we got Nyla Rose in a squash defeating Kylan King and Kenzie Page, some of the AEW Dark All-Stars. Kylan King is actually a really good worker, but they weren't here to work. They were here to get squished. So Nyla cuts
I thought those were two fans. I thought those were cosplayers. I had never seen those two before in my life.
Yeah. Kylan King is solid. And Kenzie Page is like...
she got solidly
Yeah. So Nyla cut a promo after the match. She said actions speak louder than words, and she said she's gonna say more words. She sees all these great wrestlers in AEW with managers, and most of them have titles. And she says she's gonna have a manager, but she's not ready to say who it is yet. Carl Cheetah's glaring at her, and then they cut to Penelope Ford, and Penelope's like, "It's not me." And let your mind run wild on what they're doing here. Who is Nyla Rose's manager?
Chad.
I'm gonna say it's a female. That's all I got. I don't know who. But I'm going with a female.
I think a lot of us came to that same conclusion, and then like from there you think of like who are women that are good talkers that AEW has connections with, and you're like, oh, Vicky Guerrero. So there's that. They could do Brandy, but Brandy seems like that you're yo-yoing her what she is from week to, or not week to week, like month to month or every other month now. With she was a babyface, then she was a heel, and
dude, I'd be good with that.
Now she's a heel again. Is like in the span of like less than a year. I
think that's her role though. She's too valuable to just be Dustin's hype girl in the corner.
I agree.
I think that her value is as a manager.
She's been doing a lot of tag matches teaming up with Allie, so they've been doing that for at least a month now.
I'm so glad that's on Dynamite
Dark.
I never have to watch that.
She's not a wrestler. Yeah, put her as a mouthpiece for someone. I think that works well. I don't know.
I'm feeling like it's Vicky Guerrero, and I don't.
Yeah, I think the same. I don't know how I feel about that.
I'm not super excited about that because she's a one-note player essentially. She's like a
we've seen that note a lot.
Yeah, and we see that. Like the there are tiers of managers, right? Like back in the 80s, it was like, the Bobby Heenan level managers, like the main event guys.
The Bobby Heenan types,
and then Jimmy Hart, and then Mr. Fuji.
Wow. I thought
if Sensational Sherry were alive, she'd be perfect.
Yeah, she would be perfect.
I thought you were going to say Paul Jones at some point, talking about like
I was going to get the number one Paul Jones, but it's like the manager hierarchy. I wonder if they're going to give Nyla like they should have. I'm gonna just say it. They should have Taz manage Nyla too.
That'd be good.
I got Nyla Rose on one side. I got Brian Cage on the other. What's up?
That'd be good.
Can we do a revival of the Four Horsemen, but have Nyla Rose be one of the Four Horsemen and have Tully Blanchard be her manager?
Sure.
I mean, they
don't let Tully talk as much as they should.
Tully ain't doing nothing. He might as well. But he's managing Sean Spears. Tully's not doing anything, so you may as well. I said what I said, and I meant that.
I do like the fact that she was the second of the three heels that needed to get heated back up and do something intriguing because she hadn't really done anything since losing the title. Which I don't know how you guys felt, but I was very surprised that she lost the title. So, because I thought she was a good foundational building block. She still is, but this did a good job of overall of kind of starting a conversation about Nyla Rose for the first time in 6 weeks, really.
Yeah. So, Brody Lee was in the trainer's room, and he had a hematoma on his body after being, whipped into the railing.
Colt Cabana, yeah.
My fault. Yeah, Colt Cabana, yeah. And that shit looked like, I was like, yo, if that's not like sprayed on, like that shit looked bad.
Yeah. Somebody must have done a good job in the makeup department.
Like for what it's worth, Alvarez said it was legit, but I'm like,
how legit though? Because like
3 cheers to Colt Cabana then.
Yeah.
Like I guess my thing really is if it's that colored. Okay, so I saw a lot of purple. I didn't see any like brown or green, and like
I felt like I saw a lot of like purple and like gold. Like
right. I didn't see much, and I didn't see much swelling either.
Yeah.
So, but who knows?
Maybe
maybe it's a legit injury, and like they put makeup on it to accentuate the injury. That's what I think.
It looked like makeup to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That was my first thought on it. But Mr. Brody Lee, Colt Cabana, and Stu Grayson, who was excellent in this match, took on SCU. Scorpio Sky he didn't get to come out with his new music. James, have you heard his new music yet?
No, I have not.
Okay, I'll send it to you. It's all right. But yeah, this was another good match here, and the story here was Cabana slowly embracing the Dark Order,
winning matches for him.
Yeah, winning matches
for him. Like it is funny because like this is the same thing, kind of like is with Dakota Kai in Raquel Gonzalez, where Raquel Gonzalez is the one that ends up putting people away, and then like she gives a little pat on the back to Dakota to go out there and go get her, go pin the person, go do the easy work. So,
right.
But yeah, I mean, obviously this is a way more important storyline. But if this actually does take, and he's actually in there for an extended period of time, like, what do you think this means for? What do you think this means for the Dark Order as far as like where they could go? Like, could they become the number 2 heel faction?
Yeah, I would argue they already
feel more
are.
Confident in saying, yeah. I mean, I feel a lot more confident in answering that affirmatively now than I did 6 weeks ago when Brody Lee fought for the title. I think they've done a really good job of following up on what felt like it could be the point in the Dark Order's history where they just started to slowly fall the way down the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this whole thing's been really well done, and the 6-man tag was really well done. I think they got a lot of good talent in there. I think what they're doing with Brody Lee, he was the third guy that needed to hit the reset, and I think what they're doing with Colt Cabana is good. I don't. What's the second biggest heel faction ultimately mean though? I don't know.
I didn't mean like they could win. I mean like maybe like they can become, him and Cabana could be tag title challengers on a big built up program after a couple weeks of Dynamite to build anticipation for that sort of thing. I don't necessarily think either one, or you get Cabana or not Cabana, you get Brody Lee. Maybe not now; it's too soon. Maybe like next in a season from now, he gets a TNT title shot against Cody. That sort of thing.
Dark Order has 4 tag teams in it. Like they are deeper than the Wu-Tang out here. Like they have Lee and Cabana.
Right.
They have Evil Uno and Stu Grayson.
Right.
They have Silver and Reynolds.
That's right.
And then they have 10. And then they have 10 and 5. Like,
wait. I didn't know that 10 was tagging with 5. When did that start?
So they team up this week on Dark to Come, I believe.
Okay.
So that's Alan Angels and Preston Vance.
Okay.
And anyone that's heard this show for any amount of time knows I love me some Alan Angels. Like, it was funny that I saw Stu Grayson and Alan Angels kind of in the same place, because I feel like they're the same guy essentially. Okay. And I feel like, it was funny that Alan Angels was standing on the stage and Stu Grayson was like, I gotta work my ass off in this match.
Oh, he did just that.
Yeah.
He did just that. If I may, I want to make a quick comment about this match in a big picture sense. One of the big stark contrasts for me between NXT and AEW is there are a lot of people in NXT I do not give a crap about. I pretty much like everybody that shows up on AEW Dynamite. Like pretty much every act that shows up, I'm into them in some way. I feel like the investment thus far made in AEW this last year plus has been very, very much rewarded with situations like seeing the Dark Order in a prominent spot on a. I liked Jeremy Donovan's statement that nights like Fyter Fest are like Dynamite and a half, right in between a regular Dynamite and a pay-per-view. I mean, they matter. The fact that they matter and that the 6-man tag that goes on before the main event of the night matters is really refreshing as a wrestling fan. Because, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of stuff in NXT, not on takeovers, but NXT weeklies that don't really feel like they matter that much. There's a lot of stuff in New Japan that I skip, like tag team matches in New Japan. I pretty much skip all the time, but I watch everything that AEW does because I feel like it's going to mean something. So I wanted to put that out there.
And I think that just has to do with like them not burning you, like, you know, or there's no huge history of like, you know, feeling like, all right, well, nothing's gonna happen. Like they, from the inception of the promotion, essentially, like Jericho wins the first night, he makes an off comment at Scorpio Sky backstage. I always remember this, and then to figure out that it was planned 10 weeks in for him to get a title match after pinning him, being the first man to beat Jericho in the promotion, like stuff like that is just like incredible. And then you can look up and down the card and see different examples of that. So after that, they announced that next week Cody's going to defend the TNT title in an open challenge, and it turned out his challenger is going to be Sonny Kiss. So Sonny Kiss and Cody for the TNT title next week. FTR and the Lucha Brothers, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, the Elite versus the Jurassic Express, going to be nuts. And John Moxley versus Brian Cage next week for the big belt. So next week should be awesome too.
Hell yeah, it should be. Mm-hmm.
So after that, Big Swole came back in. She was dressed up. She looked like she was going to knock Will Hobbs out. Will Hobbs was the big guy in the mask. Then she threw her suspension papers at Britt Baker's nose. Britt Baker comically oversold this, and it was just like, normally I like everything that Baker and Swole do. I don't like this one.
Well, what they really sold was in a similar fashion to last week's match with the between Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus versus Wardlow and MJF, where somebody hits somebody throws some type of strike into somebody's arm, and then that's basically makes them like kinetic energy to hit somebody else in the face, right? So there was like the push and pull, and then like, you know, the hand got let go or punched or whatever else, and that hand, the hand that gets hit gets sent flying into Britt's face, and I was like, I think this one was lame. Like typically everything they've done with Swole and Britt has been fun, but this one I just didn't get into.
Yeah. Then after that, we got our main event. Chris Jericho hyped this up as one of the best matches of his career. I mean,
Stop the cap. Stop the cap.
I can't say it was one of the best of his career, but it was still a really great match to end the show. Match. And Orange Cassidy is like, I came around on him not too long ago, and I sat on here, I was like, I think this man's a genius. Like, and he's I don't know if you heard, I was like, I think he's everything that all the old school wrestlers claim that they want the young wrestlers to be.
Dude,
like,
the least amount of stuff while getting the most reaction.
Yes, like this dude's a fucking genius. Like Kevin Nash should love Orange Cassidy.
Like basically, what you're saying is like it's Orange Cassidy, then there's a distance, and then it's like Randy Orton.
Yes. Yeah. Like so. Yeah. Like this was awesome. This felt like it had like. I think you could have even went with Cassidy here. They didn't decide to do that, but it felt like these guys were fighting to win. They were exhausted. They were kicking out of stuff and like setting up great spots all around. This was a classic Chris Jericho match. This was like seeing how he lays stuff out and just being a master. Like I gushed like the last show of the Doc Says. I talked about Jericho, just the esteem that I hold him in, and this match is a perfect example why. Like, yeah.
There was a moment heading into the climax of the match when I had a flashback to Chris Jericho against Evan Bourne, interestingly enough. I think it was like Fatal 4-Way 2010 or something like that.
It
and
is.
I thought to myself, Chris Jericho has always been awesome at stepping into a role with someone who could be a big deal if someone in his position would just put them over. And what I love about AEW is that...
Sorry.
All good.
Got caught in the wrong, went down the wrong pipe. Sorry.
It's all good. You know, it's AEW takes that type of opportunity and puts it in the main event and gives it main event time so that if we're going to see Orange Cassidy turn into a big star, he's going to have every opportunity in this spot to showcase why. And I thought he killed it. Like if the 8-man tag is Rich Latta Pro Wrestling, then Orange Cassidy versus Chris Jericho is Chad Matthews Pro Wrestling. This is my preferred style of wrestling that really sort of is measured in what it wants to do. And really, when you get to the point where they start throwing in the near falls, there's been a build to it to where by the time you're there toward the end of that match, you just feel like you could jump out of your seat. So I bought every time that Orange Cassidy almost won that match. I bought every time he was locked in the walls, because this is a match that, to me, I didn't really pay attention to the time that was left in the show when I started to watch it. So to me, it was the type of thing that could have ended and been 6 minutes long, or it could have gone over 20 minutes long. And either way, I wouldn't have been surprised. And the fact that Orange Cassidy just kept pushing him and pushing him and pushing him to his limits. I messaged Rich after I finished watching it on Friday night, and I told him, you know, I feel like all of a sudden the sky is the limit for Orange Cassidy. Now the question is, how do you follow up on it? Because, I mean, this was a big deal. These opportunities to be in the position he's in coming out of that match, they don't come around every day. And I'm fully invested now in the success of Orange Cassidy. And really, this is a testament to Chris Jericho's greatness. And this is, again, a testament to what happens when you've got a guy who is, I mean, how old is Chris Jericho now? Is he 50?
He'll be 50 at the end of this year.
So he's almost 50. And he is so different than what we have come to expect from part-time wrestlers, or from not part-time wrestlers, but aging veteran wrestlers. He comes out and it's like his mission is to, while maintaining how over he is, make sure that everyone else rises up to his level. I love it. It was great. He was great. This was my favorite match of the night.
Nice.
Yeah, really enjoyed the match. I had a hard time believing that Orange Cassidy was going to win. I figured it's a situation like where he's going to lose, and then eventually 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, or maybe less than 9 months, whatever else, before the year's out, like, he's going to catch Jericho eventually. He's going to get a W over Jericho. Like, but I really enjoyed the match. Like you said, it is a Chris Jericho match. Like, you kind of could see where the twists and turns were coming from like a beat before they happened. It's like, I've been watching the dude wrestle for 25 years.
25 years.
Yeah.
That's fine. But yeah, like but yeah, it was a very good / great match. Like, I think I gave it like 3 3/4. So yeah, I really enjoyed the match. But, you know, and also, like, imagine, like, you know, you also have a damn near, you know, one of the best matches of the year, you know, an hour before then, like, you know, that's, you don't have to necessarily follow it, but, like, there's some steam taken out of the building once that bomb gets dropped off at 9 o'clock or whatever the time that match went. So, I thought it was, you know, character performances by both of them, lets you know that, like, the Orange Cassidy thing is, even though you already knew this, it maybe if you weren't familiar, like you realize like this shit ain't no joke. Like he can actually go. Like he just does this because like he found a way to make it work for him. And I'm interested to see where what developments he makes or progressions he makes with the character, and adjustments and trade-offs he makes as he gets himself more over and more opportunities he gets at like this level of match. Like I don't necessarily think that he can become a upper mid-carder, but I do think that he's somebody that you can put in a main event from time to time and it'll work. Like but I don't think like future champion. A lot of things have to change between now and then for get me to come off my feelings on that. But like we're in a great spot with him. Like he's found money. He's absolutely found money. He's totally a luxury.
I think that eventually, like somebody out of these young guys that's your Darbys, the Sammys, Orange Cassidy. I say young out of like young on the national television stage,
young in service years or whatever you want.
Right, and that whole class like of guys that they have just like brewing there. Someone's got to knock someone off at this point.
Right.
That's where we're getting to. Like,
right. And I'm glad that we were able to disperse that. Like, remember I was talking a few weeks ago, it's like, is every young dude going to be chasing after Cody?
Right.
Like, is Cody in 3 years is going to be jobbing out to everybody that was a prelim guy 3 years ago or right now? That's
like, it needs to be like The Wire. Like, there has to be somebody like coming for everybody's spot. Essentially to replace them like one day.
Yeah, New Japan, like Sonata is chasing Okada more or less, right? Like Sho is chasing Shingo. Like you gotta have that. And you gotta spread that around. So I'm glad they did Orange Cassidy for Jericho as opposed to having another person chase after Cody.
When I say that Orange Cassidy, the sky is the limit, I mean I can in the short term I think of that as this is a guy that started out the year as a bit comedy player and who at the end of the year could be in one of the 3 biggest matches on a pay-per-view and not bat an eyelash. Not in a title match, but in a really well hyped upper mid-card match. Like if you put him against MJF and slotted that as the big feat. Has he done that already?
I feel like he may have already done that. Like maybe I'm misremembering the Pac and Orange Cassidy thing, but as far as successes of the night, that was definitely a top 3 success. But maybe it wasn't a top 3 match going into the building as a money match. But yeah, I get you.
Yeah,
like knowing it ahead of time.
Yeah, got you.
Yeah, like if you spent 5 weeks leading up to All Out building to him versus MJF, and in the big picture, I think he's shown enough that. I don't know what would happen if you put a microphone in his hand and asked him to actually cut an actual promo. But if he can do that, then, I mean, I really don't see. I mean, the people are going to be so invested that have spent the time with him coming up through the ranks. That I mean, there's not a whole lot of precedent set for a guy who was a mid-card comedy act, kind of rising all the way up to the top. But if he can have a match like that in a main event spot at a night where, it's basically everybody knew for the last 7 days, I think that was going to be the main event after Brian Cage versus Jon Moxley bowed out, and he crushed it. And every opportunity he's had this year, he's crushed it. I mean, you start to wonder if you start to extrapolate that out over a larger sample size, what can't this guy do? So all of a sudden, to me, he's right in the mix with the big picture potential with the likes of Adam Page and MJF and Jungle Boy and
Darby
Allin, Sammy Guevara.
Scorpio.
He's now. If you had told me last year that he'd be in that mix in the summer of 2020, I would have said, "There's no fucking way."
See, the thing for me was right after the last pay-per-view, Double or Nothing. I remember like they shot the Jericho and Tyson thing, and Rich was like, he was so far against because it's like you're retreading some shit that happened on WWE 20 years ago. This isn't the heart of the promotion. This goes against what this promotion is, and like they try some things, but I ain't like this. So I was like, I don't like it either, and I don't want to see Mike Tyson in a wrestling ring because is Mike Tyson in a wrestling ring? But in 2020, but I ended up like, well, maybe they know something I don't. So I went and looked at the YouTube video views, whatever else. And like when you listen to so many bad faith opinions when it comes to, or propositions when it comes to WWE apologists, they'll talk about, well, this trash segment like did amazing ratings. So I was like, all right, let me look at what Tyson does. And then I was like, all right, let me look at what certain acts do, like the top acts do or whatever else. And you look and you see on their YouTube, like Orange Cassidy's YouTube numbers are like up there with like the top 4 of Jericho and Moxley and Kenny and Cody. And you're just like, huh. And then sure enough, like a week later or 2 weeks later, you get this Jericho and he's like, okay, that they know where they're going towards the direction, like they're going towards what's hot right now, and they're capitalizing on it. And it didn't do well in the rating against the NXT double title match, but like for short notice against a fucking takeover main event,
a champion versus champion match,
right?
The biggest match that they had.
Like, what do you expect? So it's like, okay, like it didn't do great against that, but it's not because of it. It's not because like they didn't knock it out the park, because they did.
Yeah,
and like that's the thing I think about when I think of both of these shows, as they go head to head when this stuff is like, I'm comparing. Like in a vacuum, is this stuff good? Most weeks, yes. Now, what's better compared to each other from time to time, or there's parallels or whatever else to make versus type of comparisons, but like. That's why I enjoy Wednesday Wrestling, because I can just turn it on and it's like 8 times out of 10 episodes between these both of these shows, you're going to get a good show.
Yeah, man. So let's take it over to Great American Bash.
Oh, okay. So we are now an hour and a half in. I don't think we'll be talking about NXT for an hour and a half. Yeah. So this episode is basically a one-match show. It's basically a one-match show. Everything on this show is basically like, aside from Johnny Gargano and Swerve, that's just fucking the best wrestling I saw on Wednesday. Technical wrestling, but everything else aside from that match and the main event is like 2.5 2-star wrestling. The first match is Candice versus Mia Yim in a street fight. They whack each other with a bunch of shit. They set up a spot where they end up on some type of ramp or some type of platform. There is a catering table. They move the catering table. Candice is going to powerbomb Mia off of it. Mia gets free. She shotgun drop kicks Candice to the floor to her death. They come back to commercial break. And guess who's in control, Rich? That's right. The person that was just left to die. So they go back and forth.
True.
They go back and forth with technical wrestling in the ring. All of a sudden, while Mia has fought back to her feet and gotten separation, all of a sudden the referee reaches into his pocket and hands up something to Mia. Then they cut the camera angle and Mia just magically has brass knuckles. I was like, wait. So go and rewind it, watch it. Sure enough, why Mia could not. Well, one thing, Mia came out in some short overalls with Timberlands on for a street fight, which is like, if you're wearing Timbs and black Air Force Ones to a street fight, I believe it. That's appropriate attire. So I don't know why she couldn't keep the brass knuckles in her trunks or in the pockets of the jeans or whatever else, but they knew that they had to make this handoff, and they still couldn't find the camera angle to hide the handoff. It was awful. So anyway, Mia goes to use the brass knucks. Candice is blocking a punch. There's a bunch of chairs in the ring already, and Candice grabs the chair, puts it up. She punches with the brass knucks into a chair. They end up earlier in the match, a table got set up on one of the corners, like on top of the ropes. They both end up on top of it. Mia goes to strike Candice with the brass knuckles. Candice does a small joint manipulation. Shout out to Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne to get to pry the brass knuckles out of Mia's hands, which looks very painful because she is controlling the brass knuckles to get it out of her. So she's, ripping her hand, ripping her fingers to get it out of her hands. She sells her hand. Candice puts on the brass knuckles, clocks Mia, and then hits her old finish, the top rope twisting neck breaker onto a pile of chairs and gets the arm over for the win. They're both on the ground forever, and they sell it like they both died. It was a good match, but a lot of it was hitting each other with shit. Like, they started off the match too early with kendo stick shots. They probably should have saved those, like how, people save chops, or Flair saves, or not Flair, but Okada saved the drop kick. Like the quote unquote memorable cracking loud stuff, you kind of got to save that in these kinds of matches. Otherwise, you just
Triple H laid us out.
Desensitize people. Like the Randy Orton RKO.
Yeah.
It was one of those where, like, let's start out hot. It's like, how about you start out hot doing something else and like blowing through like the ooh and ah parts of your match. But whatever.
I did hear that Mia Yim showed up with the Timberlands on.
Yes.
I liked that match way more than you did.
Oh yeah? Okay. I liked the match. It just felt to me as like, how do I say this? Empty arena. Another thing about this match was like, for a group full of paid plants this particular week, for a group full of paid plants, they were awful at showing enthusiasm for a product that is actually good. Like, the bad crowd dehanced a lot of these matches. I believe that this match would have been well over 3 stars if this crowd had gave the appropriate amount of care for it, or care, or whatever. Give a fuck. Same thing for Johnny versus Swerve. Like, Johnny versus Swerve in front of a live audience, that's a 4-star match, arguably. They act like they were watching, like, I don't know, who could I disparage? Like an Iconics match.
I'd say Swerve and Johnny Gargano was bordering on a 4-star match anyway. That was excellent.
It was.
People are sleeping on that. It is a testament to the negativity on the internet that more people did not like Swerve Scott against Johnny Gargano. I read some reviews of that show. Like, what the hell is everyone's problem? That was fun as hell.
It reminded me of last week's tough white man match between. I'm sorry, Chad. I'm sorry. So we had last week we had Oney Lorcan versus Timothy Thatcher, which I then dubbed, like, I can't wait to see this match, and I am dubbing it as a tough white man match. It's basically 2 old school motherfuckers going out there and being rusty, mean, crusty dudes that beat the hell out of each other, and with just all the grit. It's a grit match. Yeah, so
fair enough.
The thing I liked about it was, like, it wasn't in the typical WWE formula style or traditional style of shine, heat, fight back to your feet, come back, and then near falls. Same thing for this Gargano and Swerve match. Like, both of those matches were basically like, go out there and have a match that breaks the formula and shows the diversity of what we do here. And I loved the Swerve and Gargano match. Like, they were doing stuff that I had never seen before, ground wrestling wise, at the beginning of the match. And then, like, they started going back and forth with, like, as we talk about with Swerve from time to time, like the made up on the spot, like, what do you call it? The background karate. Yes,
the makeshift kung fu.
Yes, it's just, they're so good together. Like, and it's a match that I wanted to see for a while, and then, like, you got to see, it was like, they could even do better if given more time and away from this awful audience. But so, that's it. I detract. But
can I say one quick thing about Mia Yim?
Yeah.
I went into that match. I haven't seen a lot of Mia Yim because she's only been on one. Or maybe did she wrestle In Your House?
Yeah,
she did. It was
she was in a tag match.
She was in a six-woman tag match. And the other takeover match she had was
with Shayna Baszler.
Yeah, SummerSlam last year.
Yeah. Which I thought was comfortably the worst NXT Women's Championship match, probably of all NXT Women's Championship matches at TakeOver. It just didn't happen, didn't click. Shayna Baszler had a formula. Mia Yim didn't do very well with it, and it was what it was. But I went into this match like, okay, Mia Yim, this is the second time I've had the opportunity to see you in a singles match. You are still around. You are still getting opportunities. Tell me why. And I thought that her and Candice worked their butts off. So aside from that little exchange with the referee, I thought that, I would say it was a 3.5-star match. I mean, it didn't burn the house down, but it was I thought it really helped me get more invested in Mia Yim moving forward. And I thought, Candice LeRae came out of it looking like, that spot at the end, the finish was, that was pretty sick. The swinging neck breaker off the top rope onto a pile of chairs, like, ow.
Yeah. What I would say for if you were to get into looking for Mia Yim stuff from WWE that's easily accessible on the network, you can go through her 2018 run on the second Mae Young Classic tournament. And you can also look through, it was like the beginning or the middle or the beginning of last year. They had a match between Shayna and Mia, which is like, one thing that really annoys me.
That's why their takeover match made no sense.
Right. Like, they went out there and they had a storytelling classic of, Shayna does her normal bullying stuff. Mia catches her opportunity to where where Shayna hurt her arm or her leg, can't remember, and it basically is like, all right, let's see how tough you are when like you bully people and torture them and they have to fight from underneath. Let's see you like fight under the same circumstance and went back and forth. And they had a great storytelling match. That's a match I gave like 3.5 at the time too. So one thing that bothers me in wrestling matchups is like you have a great match. And then, like, so you clearly know how to have the chemistry or the story or whatever else, or the elements in place to make lightning strike twice. And then, like, you go out there and at a later circumstance, like, you don't rely on that or, like, it doesn't match up. And I'm always like, you idiots. You had the blueprint in your hands. Why would you go away from it? Or why don't you just use whatever story you told in the first match to further whatever you do in the second and third and successive matches? So that's the reason why, like, for me particularly, like, it wasn't just a match that wasn't necessarily very good. It was also disappointing because, like, I saw y'all before do it, Mia and Shayna, but yeah, she's very much in the Becky Lynch realm of talking about. Me and Rich have talked about this. She tore her ACL in 2017 or else. We used to see her like. In Tampa for Shine, and she was like one of the best wrestlers on that WWN scene or whatever else. So like she tore her knee up, and like her athleticism is not the same as it used to be, but like she's a great storyteller, and that's what comes through in her matches. Like now, because of some of the spots that have happened, she's now become like some type of like hardcore legend in NXT, but yeah, like she's a great storyteller and technical wrestler.
Cool. Well, yeah, I was impressed at Great American Bash for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I said, after that they went from commercial break with them both on the ground after that bump, and then Mia walks off on her own power, and later Candice, I think she gets assistance to the back, which is like, then they get Bronson Reed versus Tony Nese. It was simple cat and mouse type of thing, like big man can't get a hold of Tony Nese, and then eventually Tony Nese he gets a hold of Tony Nese, and he basically lets him every which way but loose, and he basically finishes off with the big splash. But this was set up because they showed video of a dark match where he beat up Leon Ruff, and Leon Ruff got squashed by Bronson Reed like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and Bronson Reed helped him after he squashed him, and then Tony Nese basically spent this whole dark match bullying Ruff, and then Bronson Reed was like, how about you fight somebody that's actually not a geek, and he proceeded to then beat this man's ass. I liked the match, but it was a simple week-to-week thing that I don't really think is going to come of it between either in any way.
This happened in PWG, I think I'd be very excited about it.
Yeah.
2 points. It's good to see that Tony Nese can still count his abs. Yeah, nothing has changed about Tony Nese in 4 years. I like Tony Nese, but
Nese and Swerve from a couple weeks ago on 205 Live. Check that out, Chad.
I will. I like Tony Nese. The other thing was that This match and another one that happened later really showcased the contrast between an NXT 1.5 type show, to borrow Jeremy Donovan's little analogy, and AEW's version of 1.5. You know, when AEW promises you something more than a normal Dynamite, you're gonna get a pay-per-view quality kind of show. Mm-hmm. And when NXT does it, they're gonna mix in stuff that reminds you very, very much so that this is still a weekly TV. Yep. So we're gonna spend some weekly TV time building up this Bronson Reed guy who I'd never seen before, but he was fine. Oh, you know, like I said, build up some big dudes.
I will go back, like, I think it's 2 weeks ago.
You wrestled Cross.
Karrion Kross in a 5-minute slobber knocker. Very fun match for like 5-6 minutes.
Cool.
They just suplex and beat the shit out of each other. So then you get a backstage segment where Robert Stone is trying to recruit Shotzi Blackheart while she's on her mini tank. She's actually tuning it up. And she says no. Your boy, Robert Stone, has a cup of coffee. He gets furious, and somehow it goes flying backwards behind him off camera. Then in comes onto the screen, comes Killian Dane, wet from hot coffee, apparently. Yikes. Robert Stone apologizes, nothing doing. He gets put to the floor, and then Shotzi has tuned up the tank and runs over Robert Stone's ankle, and he screams as if he is being raped with fire ants.
My God.
I thought it was funny, but ultimately, the only thing I thought was like, that has to hurt so much. It has to hurt so much. Not like the fact that he's selling it, but like just the idea of, all right, we have this play tank, and we're going to put a grown adult woman inside of it, and she's going to run over your leg and foot with it. And I was like, that's painful, bro. And then they cut away. Now, Dave Meltzer has told, or has said that the Robert Stone character is supposed to be some type of parody of Tony Khan. I have never for a single second gotten any vibes of that. And I don't know how this even is I don't know how this... I'm not saying... Look, I don't see it, but if it's there, I don't see how you're supposed to figure this out even on a subconscious level. Either one of y'all have any...
I think the glasses like that he wears... Glasses? Tony Khan wears glasses.
I didn't know that.
I remember
have a similar complexion. I mean, it kind of looks like Robert Stone could be his.
That's only because of Robert Stone's tan, though.
Right?
His gym rat older brother or something, or younger brother. I don't know.
Like I heard about this a long time ago. Actually, like when he first started like coming in, I was like, oh, okay. And I guess he's a talent recruiter or whatever, and they show him failing to recruit talent or whatever, and just. I don't know. He had this thing about these. He had a promo about analytics and all this other stuff.
I heard this too, and I don't recall the analytics thing because if I did, I feel like I would have remembered that. And then, before the Chelsea left after the Charlotte thing, another person caught up in the vacuum of Charlotte right now. When they were doing these promos to build Chelsea up as like the future of the division or one of the future corner piece building blocks of the division, like.
LOL.
He was a good promo. He got her over in what he was tasked with being asked to do. So it's like, if he's a joke, why would you give him some credibility? I don't get it. Like, if it's a parody, he's a parody.
Yeah, maybe it's like all the talent ends up leaving him. I don't know.
I guess.
Not worth that much time.
Yeah. I just, all right, so then we end up getting the Gargano and Swerve match, and like, I mean, just great wrestling, match ends, basically, where they end up on the outside, Johnny ends up hitting a reverse Rana onto the floor, then throws him into the ring and hits that slingshot DDT, but like, in between, it was lots of just creative wrestling and stuff that, like, I always talk about like Johnny Gargano is underrated as a technical wrestler, and then like he ends up getting an Observer stuff. He's always like put up there as like one of the best technical wrestlers. So it's like I can't really be saying that, but it's like somehow he does more stuff is better than I think he is to begin with, and it's like I don't know, man. Like I don't know. I want to see him versus Pete Dunne. That's basically where I'm gonna put it off. Like I need to see Pete Dunne versus Gargano in some type of takeover match eventually. I just got to see this.
Nice. That would be great.
Yeah, a long time ago they wrestled with a takeover pre-show match. That's
I was at that show.
Yeah.
Was that War Games?
That was Brooklyn 3.
That was War Games.
I thought it was Brooklyn 3.
No,
it was never mind. I'm sorry.
The first War Games
wrestled Almas.
Yep.
Never mind. I was not at that show. I take that back.
So if I remember right, that was in Houston. I was like, man, Chad, that doctor salary is great. Get you around the country quick.
So
the wife will not let me travel the country to watch wrestling.
I don't know how to transition from that. So we end up getting this great video package for Tegan Knox as the next challenger to Io Shirai
next week.
Yes, next week. It's more. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but like ever since in the promo to build up, or the promo package, video package for the triple threat match between Rhea and Charlotte and Io, they show Io basically suspended in water in the dark, and like she's talking in Japanese, it's translated, and she's cutting this promo talking about like she does this stuff alone or whatever else. They use this again and interplay like the differences of their life, I guess lifestyles or just characters between Io by herself like a fucking suspended vampire, and then you have Tegan, who's basically like working out and training like outdoors or whatever else to prepare herself for this match. And she talked about how, and Io talks about how, see, me a year ago when I dumped Candace or whatever else, like I learned that like I don't need anybody. I do this on my own. And then says, Tegan, look at what your life has been ever since like Candace turned heel, like, and Dakota left you and everything else. Is like you rely on others, and that's what makes you weak, because these people eventually always end up leaving you. So then Tegan points out, is like, yeah, you do things all by yourself, except for like last week Asuka came and spit and mist in Sasha's face. So that was the gist of the video package. I thought it was cool, and they did more underwater Io, which is like, I don't know why. It's different, and it looks cool. It really does.
Io should have told Tegan, now you don't worry about that, because I wouldn't have been allowed to beat that main roster person without her. So that's you need to stay out of my business. Like, so they've been I feel like Triple H has wanted this match to happen for years.
That was supposed to be the semifinal for the 2018 Mae Young Classic, and Tegan was supposed to beat her until she blew out her knee, and they had to award the match to Rhea Ripley.
Shit, he might have wanted to do that a year before that when Io didn't pass medical and Tegan got hurt for that one or whatever. So this is amazing. Like Triple H has willed this, like this will happen.
Yeah, this is kind of his white wallet. Yeah, because they've been trying this 2017. Yeah, that's true. It
only amplifies my interest in seeing it to know that. I didn't know that, but between that and the video package they showed on Great American Bash, I'm pumped about that match now.
Yeah, like it's a great takeover match that they're doing on free TV.
Yeah, in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Let's do it on a 1 week build. All right. Yeah, so then we end up getting El Legado del Fantasma versus Drake Maverick and Breezango. This match did not work for me until all options were basically nullified, and you were left with a hot tag where you have Drake Maverick on the apron, and you have Fantasma on the Santos Escobar / Fantasma on the apron, and they got in there and they wrestled, and it reminded you of the final to the Cruiserweight tournament, and then out of fucking nowhere they decided to go with the worst possible finish they could come up with for this program / whatever they can come out with for TV. Basically, they end up in the ring. Drake runs hot. He gets cut off. And then Phantasma hits his finish. And
that's it now, right?
That's right. Why the fuck would you do this? I'm not saying you need to beat Phantasma. I'm not saying that you shouldn't beat one of Febreze for one of the members of Febreze. But the worst finish you could possibly come up with is the champion who
pinning
won
the singles guy.
Who won by swerving the babyface that was supposed to lead to a future in this program, just beating him clean. It's a wrap. Why should he get... Now in theory, if he's going to get a title shot eventually down the line, if they're even going to continue with this thing, he should be made to have to go through more hoops to go get back what he, the luster he's lost, right?
Yeah, I think you keep both of them out of the finish, and then you have like Tyler Breeze lose to the tag team and completely like protect it both ways.
6 people in the ring. And there's 6 different people in the ring, which means there are 6 people that can be beaten. They picked the worst person to pin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if this is over,
Bad
cool.
news.
But I mean, like, that means bring Kushida or Swerve, but Swerve may be doing
Elevated.
something else. Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think of this match, Chad?
Whatever. You know, it was another one of those. With being more of a takeover only NXT fan, if you're not going to present each of the matches on this, NXT 1.5 as takeover like, then it's hard for me to care. Like, I mean, I got more out of the promo segment last week, which I really liked with whatever they are.
Santos Escobar. El Legado de Fantasma.
Woo.
Yeah, and I always liked King Cuerno in Lucha Underground, and it took me a second. I was like, this guy, that tattoo looks familiar, and then the Phantasma thing, like, oh yeah, that's King Cuerno. Like, looks like King Cuerno has been eating a lot more as of late than he did when he was King Cuerno. King Cuerno was ripped. Santos Escobar isn't.
Santos Escobar
that's the main thing.
Runs an organization, and he's eating well.
Yes.
If that's my main takeaway, I think that goes to show how invested I was.
Yeah. I don't know if you followed any of the Cruiserweight tournament, but like,
I did not.
Okay, so I know you're not gonna believe it, but I told the same thing to Rich a week before. Rich laughed at it, and then the ratings came back on it. Like, during that tournament, that whole month, like, the best babyface in professional wrestling, or Western professional wrestling, was Drake Maverick. He was aspiring. He was cutting great promos. He was having these great storytelling matches, and sometimes his work would actually match up with his actual, like, stories that were laid out. Like, he was doing very, very well. And then you had, like, the swerve at the end where, like, Phantasm was a good guy, but all along, like, this was just a long play to a long con or whatever else, and he's actually a heel, and these 2-man luchadors that have been beating up everybody, that he has, like, ran off from time to time are actually his lackeys and goons. Like, it was very well done. And when they stretchered him, Phantasma gave him his finish off of that same platform that they were using for Candice and Mia, like, through a table, and then they stretched him off in an ambulance. Like, it was going very, very well, and they just, like, it's almost like they just said they pumped the brakes on, like, one of the best feuds they were doing. It was best programs they were doing. It was weird. It's very weird to me why they did this, but whatever.
Was that tournament worth checking out? I mean, I saw that there was one, and I saw that King Cuerno was in it. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So was the tournament itself worth checking out?
Most of the matches are, but there was, like, 1 week where they decided to do, like, 5-minute matches. So it's up to you. But, like, for the most part, like, 75% of the matches are quality matches.
Were they on NXT or was it on 205
They
Live?
were all on NXT.
Sweet. Okay.
Yeah. It was a 6-person tournament, and they broke them into blocks of 3.
Gotcha.
Like, yeah. A Block was Maverick and Jake Atlas, and Kushida, and Block B was Swerve, Tony Nese, and Phantasma.
Nice. That's a good collection.
Yeah. So what was I gonna say? Yeah. So then we end up getting Mercedes Martinez re-debut. Go ahead, Rich.
This pissed me off, and I didn't watch the show, but I
want you to express your anger, and then after you express your anger, then I want you to tell Chad what your anger is about. Go ahead. Describe your anger first.
When I saw like what happened with Mercedes Martinez's debut, I just immediately got furious. Like, there are so few things that I like in this company, and the things that I like, they fucking take them away. These people can't be trusted. They can go to hell. Like Tony Schiavone said, how dare they change Mercedes Martinez's theme music?
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I'm like, what are we talking about here?
How is this dare squash somebody? Music?
This is bullshit.
Okay, so
you know what that reminds me of? I'm sorry. Quick story. I'll never forget it. Remember when The Rock and Goldberg fought at Backlash 2003?
Yep, I know what you're about to say. Go ahead.
I will never forget it. The guy sitting next to me, he didn't say a peep the entire time we were in the Hooters where I was watching that show, and Goldberg's music hit, and he gets up. He's like, "How are they gonna change Bill Goldberg's theme music?" Right. He walks out.
Like, you have so as a person that stopped watching wrestling in 2000, then to get back into it until 2009 or really 2011, and then like did a bunch of quote unquote YouTube research to find out, to go back and watch like the Goldberg stuff, and then like to hear that knockoff music they use, it was like, this isn't right. It's like, what is this? Why would they just switch it? Why would they not just pay whatever it is to get it? And then, like, 2016 comes around, and then they have the Goldberg music. It's like, gee, I wonder why this is also successful when they did it now, this time around. Like, they let him be Goldberg, have Goldberg matches, gave him the same interest from WCW when he was the second biggest star in 1998. It's like, this isn't that goddamn hard, Vince. So, but yeah, like Mercedes Martinez, did the first and second Mae Young Classic tournaments. Never got signed. Was a veteran around. I think she's almost like a 20-year veteran at this point. Yeah. But anyway, like if we're going to have a quote unquote Mae Young Classic Hall of Fame, she'd be one of the people that's in it. Like she has in my opinion, the best match in the Mae Young Classic's history. Her match with Meiko Satomura, and I think that's a semifinal.
I think it was the second round, actually.
Second round? Okay, second round. Anyway, yeah, like she used to come out to like this reggaeton sounding deal that was very fun and like leaps and bounds beyond like 80% of the Mae Young Classic generic terrible music. Like when people talk about WWE's interest music or AEW's interest music, like they have their points about it feeling like soulless and massively created. But there was nothing worse than the Mae Young Classic music. It was just awful, most of it. So to get like, she actually had a legitimate hot record.
Yeah, one.
And then like, she would come out after she's re-signed. I want to say maybe like 6 months ago. She's been on NXT, kind of basically
with the music,
playing off the character that she was in Mae Young Classic, where she's basically like this super tough. Basically like a better version of what Mia Yim, except she plays more towards down the middle than a babyface. And she comes out now and she has like this I've seen her wear this before, but like she never they never really showcased it on with WWE, but like she has this mask on. This, I don't want to say it's Jimmy Havoc-esque, but it's like it's one of these dark.
Looked Jimmy Havoc-esque. That's exactly what it is.
Okay,
it looked like Jimmy Havoc's mask.
Okay, it's in the same family. I don't know if they're brothers or cousins, but they're related. Okay, so she comes down with this mask on. She has different gear than what she normally wears. I don't know if it doesn't make not one is a better aesthetic choice than the other, but it's a digression in character or aesthetic. And she comes out with this dark music and is like, we've always talked about AEW with their over-reliance on, like, making things dark just for the sake of making things dark. And it's like, okay, Triple H, we get it. You listen to fucking Metallica. Relax. So it was just more of this thing where, like, I think she's going to become the resident badass of the division. And she's more than capable of doing that. But the thing with her was that, like, she is a great technical wrestler that because of her look, you believe that she's a badass. You didn't need to double down on the badassery necessarily. And I think she's going to change her wrestling style, which, like, I'm sure she can do it and make it work, but it's like she already had something I felt that worked and could have still accomplished this, but we'll see. She had a match with Santana Garrett. It was a fine match. At the end, I think she beat her with a choke. Like, she hit her Fisherman Buster, and then she slapped on a choke, I think.
Or Fisherman Buster suplex.
Yeah. So then, do you have any thoughts on that, Chad?
Nope.
Okay. So then we end up getting to the main event match. Oh, I'm sorry. We end up getting a promo from Damian Priest. Damian Priest, Rich. Damian Priest cut his second promo worth a damn of his NXT tenure. He wasn't like a robot. All he talked about, I think the thing with him is he's good when you give him something to actually talk about. Like, if you just have him come out there and basically be, cut their standard babyface promo where you just come out and say, "Hey guys,
I am
Damian Priest." Like, he's not gonna do that. Like, what they basically did was they had him cut a Roman Reigns, a Brock Lesnar promo where he called him a bitch at the end, and it worked.
Cursing.
Yeah. Yes, cursing. So that ended up working. That's set up for next week. And then we ended up getting the NFC versus North American title match. I thought it was a really fun match. I don't think it was as good as the match we saw, a house show match that they had, but it was still a good match. I think I gave it 4 or 4 1/4. I can't remember, but it was a fun match. It basically, like, did near falls for like 15 minutes. For like 15 minutes of like a 20-something minute match. It was a really fun match.
And it sucked that they spoiled the result when they did that type of match, because if you already know who won that match, then a match that was built on trying to give you near falls was like, gotcha. I already know who wins. It was fine. It was not.
Did you get spoiled because of the picture that Buddy from Indu Shear posted, or was it something else?
Nope. I'm going to have to place the blame squarely on Wikipedia, because I went on there to check the match times of the first night and saw, I don't remember, at some point it was like, it's like NXT. No, it was what the hell was I doing? I was looking up something on Wikipedia for NXT, and I started at their generic page, and it said current champion, Keith Lee.
That's how to get you.
Yep.
That's how they'll get you.
So because of that, I mean, I thought it was a good match, but I never at any point bought that Adam Cole was going to win. So that was disappointing.
Well, what a swerve that would be. Like, wait a second, I saw this on the wiki page. What the fuck?
So it was fun, but I mean, I genuinely, I mean, I've not seen a ton of Keith Lee like you guys have, or at least you guys have hyped him up for years to me, and I've really enjoyed watching him fight bigger guys that make him sort of push the limit with what he can do, as opposed to watching him fight little guys who are trying to push their limit to see what they can do to beat him. I think the story of his matches against smaller guys is just a little less enthralling than some of the stuff that I watched him do with Dijakovic.
Right. Yeah.
So besides that, though, I mean, I think the important thing I took away from the Great American Bash main event really wasn't the quality. It was that Keith Lee is the champion. I mean, it's the exact right way to go. I mean, I think at this point, would you like to see that happen at a takeover instead of just this hot shot booking just so you can get a rating against AEW doing their Fyter Fest thing? Then sure, I think Takeover's the best special event franchise until AEW can definitively top them. And I think having that as the main event of that show would have felt worthy. And now here we are. Maybe they run it back. But I think the fact that Keith Lee's the champion is a testament to someone in WWE understands that you got to strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah. As far as your point about the smaller guy stuff with him, like, I think a lot of issue with him is, like, they feel the need that they have to tell some type of story to justify that this 300-pound dude can wrestle these 180-pound dudes, and it's actually a competitive back and forth. And it's like they haven't quite yet learned the lesson that if your smaller dude like wrestles a tough enough, rough enough style, it becomes believable. Like, you put Daniel Bryan in the ring with Keith Lee, ain't nobody gonna be worried about buying it, because Daniel Bryan's gonna kick the shit out of him and work over a limb and brutalize whatever he can do to make it believable. Whereas when he's working with Roddy Strong or Johnny Gargano, they have to come up with some bullshit, fake, clearly put in at the very last minutes, haphazardly injury, and have him work from underneath with it. Like, whether it was the foot with Roddy, or it was the hand with Johnny, and it's like, just let them go out there and have their match. I understand that you feel like you need to justify this. However, it's like, yes, that would be telling a story. However, not all stories are interesting. Or very interesting.
Yeah, and I think part of it is the dynamic of the big guy being the baby face, and he's wrestling smaller guys that are the heels. I think that, naturally the dynamic works better when the big guy's the heel and the small guy's playing the underdog trying to come back. But all in all, it's, again, I think it's kind of a moot point at the end of the day, because the fact that Keith Lee is champion is, that's kind of the major takeaway. It's Keith Lee's the number one guy.
Hey, second black NXT champion ever.
Yeah, and
300-pounder.
And it seems like we're headed towards him and Cross at some point. Because at the end of the match, and the pyro's going off, and the confetti, they cut to a bird's eye view shot of Cross and Scarlett, and they're just like happy, because it's like, I was basically coming after whoever was next, so it makes no difference to me. So we'll see what that means for the future. I'm assuming TakeOver.
Look, if I know anything about this promotion,
it'll be in 3 weeks or 2 weeks.
Shit, it might be. But I was gonna say, they ain't really, babyface as a champion ain't really, what they do here.
Yeah.
So
it's like Finn Balor happened and never again.
Like the countdown is on for Cross.
Yeah.
How much longer do you think Keith Lee is going to be in NXT?
I would be. Look, he's going to put crossover, and that's it.
Yeah, that could definitely be. I could definitely see that.
Because he's going to be that contract situation. Like,
yep.
It's time to go up.
To Riddle, very similar to Riddle. Yeah, I'm surprised. Honestly, I'm surprised that Riddle's the one that got moved up and not Keith Lee. But then again, the rumblings that people were talking about and rumors is like, Riddle's a squeaky wheel, so it's like, all right, let's get him out, let's get him up here. Like, we're going to eventually have to give him this extension or whatever you want to call it sooner or later, so you may as well, handle that now, I guess.
So Adam Cole's legacy is the NXT champion. He's the greatest NXT champion of all time, right?
Match quality wise, yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Length, quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. No question. He put himself... I thought it's kind of an interesting debate to now look back at it and say, I think it's... In a lot of ways, it's clear Johnny Gargano overall is the number one guy in NXT history, just based on the volume of takeover matches over the length of time he's been doing it, because he's been doing it now for 4 years. But because of the length of the championship reign Adam Cole just had, the quality of what he's done, and the fact that he's been around for now 3 years... I think he put himself in the conversation, and I think it's Gargano, it's Ciampa, and it's Cole. And for a guy who, when he debuted, I was there the night he debuted at that takeover I mentioned earlier, and didn't think a whole lot of him at first. It was like, God, this guy looks so small. I feel like I could kick this guy's ass. And then, and I'm like 6 foot, 165 pounds. So, I feel like if I stood next to him, I would look like the wrestler. But you know, he won me over within about a year, and just been lights out over the past year. I think the Adam Cole NXT generation is going to be looked back on very fondly, and I'm curious to see what the next step is for him too. Because I mean, 3 years with the Undisputed Era. Did I hear that he re-signed with WWE, or is that still up in the air?
So a lot of people don't know. So some people say that he signed an extension when NXT went to USA. Some people say that. I've talked to people that know him and are under the assumption that he is a free agent and he may leave. So I don't know what's going on with him.
I want him to leave after everything he's done in NXT. It's like, if you're a free agent, obviously there's an obvious place for him to go, right?
Oh,
but, I mean, who knows? I mean, you know,
go right back to
I mean, if he showed up, God, man. What'd you say?
No, I said, go right back to Ring of Honor and become the head booker.
Yeah.
Look, I heard they need a new head booker.
Well,
they may. Yeah.
They may. Yeah. They may.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was just. I mean, when you sit back and you think about it, and you think about who his friends are and all that stuff,
right.
and if he showed up at some point at All Out, I mean, dude.
Boy, people would be furious. It'd be hilarious.
I just thought of the best storyline for this, right? He shows up at an AEW pay-per-view in front of Adam Page, right? Or the Elite in general, right? And just one of them, pulls the Ultimate Warrior Hulk Hogan WCW.
I thought you were dead.
I thought you were dead.
That's going to happen on BTE for sure.
I now need that. Like after
he's literally dead in BTE's story, the BTE universe.
Yes.
After Swole did the where to doctor thing to Britt to play off the Undertaker and Stephanie thing, I now need them to take historical wrestling one-liners. I need that.
That's funny.
Hey guys.
Yeah, so thanks again for coming on, Chad. Feel free to hit up Rich more often so that you can hop on the show. But in the meantime, do you want to give us some plugs and things to look out for potentially?
Well, I will say this. I don't really have anything to plug anymore, but I did do, because I was such a big fan of the Bill Simmons podcast when he went back and sort of re-looked at some of the conclusions he drew in the Book of Basketball and did the Book of Basketball 2.0 podcast. I told Rich late last year, I was like, man, that would be a lot of fun to do the same thing with the Book of Sports Entertainment that I wrote. And so we have done a few of those. We've got about 7 episodes that's going to comprise the first season of that. It was something that hit me in the early part of the COVID experience and just decided, you know what, I need a fun distraction. And so I recorded a few of those, and I think they're really interesting, the way that they look at some of the key topics. The last edition of the WrestleMania era, the Book of Sports Entertainment on the greatest wrestlers side, came out in 2016. So a lot has changed in pro wrestling since then, obviously. So there's conversations to have about where New Japan fits into that conversation now and where AEW does, and how high ranking now do we look at someone like Chris Jericho. And Rich and I did a podcast on AJ Styles. So that'll be coming out at the end of July or early August. So be on the lookout for the WrestleMania era 2.0 podcast.
Definitely, man. Look forward to that.
Yeah. So
I appreciate you guys having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you.
So just keep in mind.
Oh my God.
This show is brought to you by Manscaped. who is the best in men's below the belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. So you always gotta keep it close by, Chad. I don't know if you've heard the last couple of weeks. This you just when you hear this sound, you know
That's
what
such
it is.
Perfect segue.
Yes, Manscaped. Be there, That's
their catchphrase. Be there. Okay, fine.
Man. So, you know what it is.
Great product.
Water resistant technology. It's you got the light. So you can't really make a mistake down there unless you try or you're careless. And of course, you get another USB cord out of it. So remember, always keep that junk of yours trimmed, clean it up. You get 20% off and free shipping with the code suplex at manscaped.com. Once again, you get 20% in free shipping with the code suplex at manscaped.com. That is 20% with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code suplex.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. Look, some of y'all that listen to this are freaks, right? And that's fine. Let your freak flag fly. But one thing I will suggest to you, if you are a freak, if you want freaky things done to you, I suggest you make it easier for yourself to have freaky things done to you. So Rich, go ahead, hit it. Tighten up.
It is not the 80s anymore. Clean it up.
All right, so we just let Chad off the call. And yeah, I guess we'll save our thoughts on New Japan Cup for when I invade your call in for tomorrow's show on Kiss. Sorry, just a heads up. I know Jeremy probably gonna hear this and be like, okay, I guess whatever else. But yeah, so yeah. Only thing left is this weekend's main events from the 2 Stardom shows. Rich, so
hit the music.
Yeah, so on Saturday, they had a main event of Donna Del Mondo versus Oedo Tai. It was Julia and Himeka and Maika versus Natsuko, Natsu, and Saki. That was probably the worst Stardom main event of 2018. I'm gonna go back in time, Rich. 2020. This
because we're trying to get the fuck out of this year.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah. But the crazy thing is, like, we're now in the other part of the second half of the year, so like it's closer to actually get to 2021.
It's like, please, 2021. Where are you?
Yeah.
They say you got a cure.
Like okay, so the chemistry that Shingo Takagi has with Sho. If there was a Bizarro opposite world, I think it would apply to that of Natsuko, Tora, and Julia. I did not like their main event final match of the Cinderella tournament, and this was all of the worst parts of it right there on display to start the match. I don't know why they don't go well together, but they do. They just do not. Thank God Himeka was there, and Maika were there, and Natsu and Saki were there to bring life to them when those two were away from each other. Match actually was respectable, or even at points good when those two were not in the ring against each other. So there's so much wrestling I've watched over the last 2 days, but what I will say is notable thing is like Himeka keeps shining in these times where she's in the ring during these tag matches. She gets a spot where she gets Saki and Natsu up on the second rope in one corner, and she stacks both of them on her shoulder and Lex Luger torture racks both of them, Rich. I popped. I was like, this is the best thing I've seen. This is the best thing I've seen since the Canadian Destroyer. There's another spot where Natsu does her corner thing. She gets advantage on Himeka. She does her, her Bronco Buster thing where she starts humping people in the face. Himeka lifts her from that position when she's, body's against the bottom rope, lifts her all the way up, and then power bombs her. I love this woman. I cannot wait till we get to the Grand Prix and she has some fucking war with either Utami or Jungle. It's going to be great. She continues to impress. But at the end, you end up getting Saki, who was somebody that I thought could possibly be the pin eater. You're not really sure in that makeup of, in your opinion, if you put Natsuko, Natsu, and Saki in a trios match, who do you think is the pin eater? Who do you think is the pin eater?
I would think it's Saki, right?
Right. So Saki's in the ring with Julia. They hit their tandem finish move on Saki, where it's basically a gourd buster, and as they bring down two people bring someone down for the gourd buster, and one person basically free and basically lifts up a knee, and as they come falling down, they basically get impaled with somebody's knee. It's awesome. They do that, and then Julia goes for her finish, and Saki escapes and then slaps on her flash crucifix pin and pins Julia. And I was there like,
different.
What? Why? And it made me think like, oh yeah, before all this shit shut everything down, the trio champions are Donna Del Mondo without Himeka, but with Shuri. They're the three champions. And Oedo Tai had beat the top three of TCS, Hana and Konami in Jungle, and they were owed a number one contender a title shot at the artist titles. So this is bringing that back up. So it's like, I'm glad they didn't leave that thread unanswered. Yeah. So they got back to that. So they talked about they wanted their title shot. It was funny because of like how ridiculous that win was, right? Oedo Tai beats them, and then they leave, and they let Donald Del Mondo sign off on the show, which lets you know, like, oh, this is definitely a fluke. So this is definitely the title challenge, if nothing else. So that was it. That was Saturday. That was Saturday's main event, and then we got this morning's main event. Rich, we found Riho. She's in Japan.
I heard about that.
Yes.
She actually made her return and Gato move like last week, I believe.
Right.
I follow a couple of the Riho accounts on Twitter, that people that are very big fans of Riho, and they told me her everywhere about. She had a nice AEW sticker on the wall of Gato move that she was out there with.
That's not even necessarily hers. Like, that is Emi Sakura. Like, she.
Oh, okay,
She has been putting on the Dynamite thing on the banner for like a few weeks now. I keep some tabs on the wackiness that I see on my YouTube of some gif of like, what are these numbskulls doing now? What shenanigans are they up to now? But and I saw that. But anyway, yeah, Riho had I think it was dubbed as a homecoming match in Gato move, but she was actually in this main event another trios match. The same top three. It was the same three from yesterday's show. It's from Donna Del Mondo. It's Julia, it's Micah, it's Himeka, and against them is Riho, Starlight Kid, and Tam. Now,
the real world's cutest tag team.
Yes. Yes, the world's cutest tag team and the world's cutest wrestler, all put together. Just bunches of cuteness. So, that's what Tam's calling herself, the cutest in the universe. I don't know if the cutest in the cosmos, some shit like that. Cutest, and it's more than just the world.
Amazing.
Whatever. So, at the Stardom, as the show that we got 3 weeks ago, when the first show that we had from Stardom in almost like 2 months, Tam and Julia beat the crap out of each other. She Julia ended up putting Tam at one point against the ropes and came off the other ropes and hit a running big boot so hard that it gave Tam a black eye. And she still has a black eye now. It hasn't even cleared up yet. But anyway, match is paired off where you have Starlight Kid versus Micah. You have Riho versus Himeka, which is hilarious because, you know, size difference. 4'10", 4'11" versus 5'8", 5'7", some shit like that, and they're just going back and forth. But Riho has experienced wrestling women a lot bigger than her, and it looked believable, looked very good. Very great wrestling between those two. They end up in a standoff. Then you end up getting Starlight Kid versus Micah. Micah gets the advantage, gets in Julia. Julia beats the crap out of Starlight Kid. Starlight Kid mounts a comeback, and then it breaks off into just people running in, hitting like team faction moves or whatever else, and then windows down, and you end up getting Tam in the ring versus, I believe it was Himeka, beats her down. Himeka lays a small beat down on her, tags in Julia. Julia comes with the advantage, and she beats the crap out of Tam. And Tam keeps taking, and Tam keeps eating, and Tam goes into, I don't think I've ever talked to you about Tam face, but she has a face like how Ibushi has the Stone Cold Killer face. Tam has this I'm crazed Mickey James WrestleMania 22 face. Like, anything can happen right now. I'm out of my mind. And she's just eating the contact. She gets back to her feet, fights back. They have a great strike exchange between big boots and forearms and kicks. And then Tam ultimately ends up winning that exchange. They end up both getting a double down, tag out, and then ends up where it's Starlight Kid in the ring. Starlight gets isolated. She puts up a hell of a fight against Julia, and Julia ultimately wins by hitting her tombstone. Gets to win. It's a match I gave 4 stars. This is easily the best tag match that has happened in Stardom since when Domino Amato won the trios belts against Queen's Quest. It just great tag team wrestling. Everybody working, busting their ass, and the story. So Julia gets to win and gets on the mic and says, "Tam, you're irritating as hell. You become a pest to me." And so she says, "You know what? How about this? I won the Cinderella tournament. Your little friend ran out. She didn't say ran out. Your little friend can't defend the title anymore. She's no longer a champion. How about me versus you for the white belt?" Tam says that I made a promise to Arisa that like the next white belt champion is going to be me, so you're on. Out comes Natsuko. Natsuko says, "How the hell did you get to jump in line, Tam?" Talks about how she was owed a title shot. She beat Arisa back in February in a tag match. Says I'm owed a title shot for anyone else. Make it a 3-way. Out comes Konami. At the 3 weeks ago show, it was a singles match between Natsuko and Konami. Konami's out wrestling Natsuko. Natsuko grabs her steel chain and does so much cheating that the ref has to DQ her, which is like this, I think the first DQ I've seen in Stardom in like over half a year. Anyway, Konami comes on and says, like, you're owed this title shot, but I beat you because you were shook off the realness. Make it a white belt tag tournament. Now 3 weeks ago when we talked about that show from 3 weeks ago, I said this looks like this potentially setting up for a tournament. That's exactly what they gave us. So I love it. I'm with it. I don't know what the arrangement's going to be, but I personally hope that it's going to be Tam versus Konami. It's a match that I would love to see. I haven't seen it yet in a singles form. And then eventually you end up getting Tam versus Julia for whoever's the white belt champion. That's cool, but there are 3 people. There are 3 great options. Now if they come out here and put Evil, put the white belt on Evil, I'm going to have a fucking problem. But I don't think that's going to happen. What are your thoughts on this layout, Rich?
you can do a lot worse than having a tournament. I think that's just the easy way to go, rather than just having two people like say, hey, let's just book a match for the belt that neither of y'all won, but y'all got to beat each other for.
Right.
That seems to be like the theme of the year. There's been lots of tournaments in every promotion, it seems like.
Yeah.
And a nice like little it gives them an attraction too.
Right. And that's where it's going to be. It's going to be at the Corkin Hall that they're going to have on, I think it's Friday, this coming Friday. So like, they were like, how are they going to fill this out with matches for a Corkin Hall? Well, there's 3 matches right there.
Right. And like you can see like other promotions, like as soon as they win the lockdown, AEW pulls out the TNT title tournament. Right. There's the Cruiserweight Classic tournament that is out there. New Japan, when they come back immediately with New Japan Cup. So it's like you don't really have to do a bunch of just in-depth storytelling. It's just like, all right, there's a tournament. Right. So this is kind of like the playbook.
Yeah, and also I think there's a precedent for when someone has to vacate the title. Like after when Yoshiko back in 2015 shot on at Yasukawa, she was the white belt. It was a red belt title match, but Act was the white belt champion. So after, she had to, go away because her face got broken in a million places, I believe there was a tournament and Mayu won the tournament, and that's how, Io won the tournament. And that's how they got out of that situation. I believe so. I'd have to look into that. Like I'm sorry, but my 2015 Stardom isn't that good. I don't know that much about Stardom 2015.
Shame.
Yeah. I'm working on that
up. Got to clean that up, Dr. Joji.
I'm working on it. Rich, would you believe it or not? Through nefarious means, I have found a way to come across most of the Stardom shows dating back even 2011. And would you like to guess how many gigs on my hard drive that's going to take up once I'm finished procuring all of it? Notice how I'm saying certain words that don't mean necessarily pirating. Sorry, right.
As I didn't hear "buy" in there anywhere.
Right.
I would guess 75 gigs.
No, go way higher.
Really?
Yeah, way higher.
250 gigs.
Double it. It is like 500 and something gigs. I am downloading every single piece of it. Just to have. Just to have. I have the space.
Yeah.
I have two different hard drives. So there you go. That will be sitting there as an anchor, just eating up space there for a while. So if there's like, I want to see, some Natsuki Taiyo match or whatever else versus Io Shirai from, I don't know, 2013 or 14, sure, I'll go out there, I'll pull it up, and I'll go watch basically Io Shirai versus another version of herself.
You know what you can watch? You can go watch the match where Tessa Blanchard, around the time when she called La Rosa Negra, you can see it was working around that time.
Yeah. It's funny because I've actually seen matches from that era, and you see Tessa there, and then like now you think about it, it's like, oh, like this is fresh off her niggering.
Yes.
La Rosa Negra. That's great. But yeah, that's like I said, the Corkin Hall show they're having is on Friday. The rest of the match from these two shows from the weekend will be up before then. They've mentioned that. So I'm assuming we'll figure out what the rest of it is. I saw a promo from the first night because they're still doing this whole thing where it's like nobody knows who's wrestling anybody. We want you to believe that these guys are just getting thrust out there to go, 25 minutes with no clue what the fuck the
no idea.
Is. Right. So while they've been doing that, instead of having the pre-match promos before they come out, they do unit promos where like the factions get together, and they say whatever you want to say for like a minute or two, and then like they just bring out the matches. So on the Saturday show, Mayu mentioned that like she is looking for a rival because her rival is no longer with us anymore. Clearly we're headed towards Hannah versus Mayu for the red belt. We didn't get it. Jungle is back now, by the way. She was in the promo for TCS. So we were supposed to be getting a Nagoya Jungle red belt title challenge. We never got it because of this damn virus that wants to like ruin, my life. Everyone's life, but my life as a professional wrestling fan.
So is Rossi about to dip into the Simping. Fritz Von Erich, Vince McMahon, win it for Hannah?
Yeah,
with Jungle. Is Rossi about to step in the shoes?
I could see it, but it won't be immediately. I think if I were to pick like who would be the Grand Prix winner, I would say either because of the history of it, either B, or if she can make it back to the country, or Jungle to set up for this match. For that reason, do I think that Jungle is going to be the next Red Belt champion? I do not. But I think that they will set it up to where like she goes chasing after it and have some 4 3/4 star match with Mayu. So yeah, that's what I think is in the future down like before the end of the year. We're going to get we're going to get back to that match with the added layer of wanting to win this for my friend. But as far as who her next Red Belt challenger could be, I mean, there's still Takumi Hiroha. That whole that great match they had at the beginning of February, like the whole thing was she got overwhelmed and then she said like, I want you to challenge for this belt, and we never got back to that because of this damn virus. This virus has ruined so much, Rich. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, man. Like let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much the end of the show. Is there anything else you want to add? Like, who would you like to see? Who would you like to see like mix it up with Mayu at the top?
I think that you're talking about like it's rough because like
they lost so much top talent.
They lost so much top talent, so it's like
Kagetsu, Hazuki could always challenge for the red belt. They lost Arisa for a white belt versus red belt thing. Yep. They lost Hannah, who seemed like the heir apparent.
Yep. I think you got to go outside the box. Like I'll do Shuri in a one-off title match. I'll do
I can see that definitely.
I'll do a Momo match with Mayu.
I think you can't get the Momo until like after the Grand Prix because they the January show they had that match.
Hell, give Azumi a shot.
I don't think.
If you're going in there to lose anyway, like.
I would like to see Utami after because Utami's never had a red belt title shot. I think you got to figure out what the situation is with Jamie and B as far as when they'll be back. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like I think we're at a point now because they lost so much talent. They might do what they did. After the shoot shit happened in 2015 where, like, they start outsourcing some of these title shots. So, like, I can see, like, an Arroyo Matsumoto coming in for a
Riho.
Possibly. I think we got to just be lucky we get Riho at all. These semi-retired Riho.
We can switch the belt to Riho real quick and bring her on Dynamite out with the belt. Get some good exposure, and then send her back.
Do you know how furious I would be? Like did they ever put the red belt on AEW television when B was champion? I don't think they did.
They did. She came out with the belt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind.
And what's her name came out with the Tokyo Joshi Pro Shoko Nakajima.
Okay. Was Shoko was on was that Fight for the Fallen?
Fight for the Fallen, the first one.
That's right. Yeah. And then she had the match with Riho on Dark.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
In Alabama.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Come on out to Alabama. We gonna book you.
Yes, and then she made like the pictures they were showing her backstage at Rio. She was kind of like she did not look happy for someone that's typically pleasant. She did not look happy. Like I've seen her when she was out there doing was it Yeah, I think it was CMLL. She was doing CMLL and she was out here in Mexico City. She had a sombrero on and she was on top of a horse. She looked happy.
What's there to do in Alabama?
That's where I was getting at. But she was out there in Alabama. She was like, "What I'm gonna do? They don't even want me here."
What is that flag that's up? Never mind.
Can you imagine trying to explain to a Japanese young person like the history of the Confederacy? Can you imagine? Like they what? Excuse me? Oh man. Yeah, so anyway, that's the end of the show. Be sure to rate us on whatever app you're using to listen to this. Tell the people about the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Leave a review, 5 stars. Also, shout out to Power Slam. They're one of the sponsors of this show. They have over 5,000 hours of footage from all over the world. You can use the code Social Suplex to get your free month's trial. Be sure to go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Social Suplex and pick up some official Social Suplex Podcast Network merchandise. Check out these shows on the network. We have this show on Sundays, sometimes Mondays. Keepin It Strong Style on Mondays and Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, we have the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Podcast. On every other Wednesday, we have Roman Watch This Shit. On Fridays, we have Get in the Ring. And on Saturdays, we have All Things Elite. Thanks for listening.
Peace.
Later.